Hey, Chris.
Who is on RCTV tonight?
I couldn't hear you, Karen.
Who is running RCTV?
I don't know.
Are we ready, RCTV?
Mark, how was the Cape?
So nice. So beautiful. Went to the drive-in last night, saw Jaws and Jurassic Park. It was a
Wow.
double feature.
And you stayed awake?
Stayed awake. It killed my car battery, but stayed awake just fine.
That was a long movies.
Yeah, it finished about 12:30, 12:40. Just kind of late.
Karen, doesn't look like you're getting any answer out of RCTV.
Oh, can you guys even hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, can anyone else hear me? Because Mark and
Yes.
Carl conversation over there. Okay, great. All right. Okay, I'm gonna bring on our good friend from RCTV. So, can we text him?
I don't really know who's there, if it's Phil or someone else.
Thank you, Phil. Okay, thank you. How can we do this? Mark, you have Phil's number, don't you?
I have an email only.
I should get Phil's number from you, but if you have it, could you ping him? Find out if he's the one running our meeting tonight? We're waiting. We don't have Ian yet, right? Okay, good. I mean, not good, but
RCTV just sent a chat and said we're all set.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay, then I won't send a text.
all right. I asked him for a countdown. Should we wait? Mark, what's, I know Ian, I just spoke with her, so. Give it a 7:05.
Is she on her way in?
Let's see, you know what? I can text her. Where'd my phone go? Let's see.
Here she comes.
Okay, thank you. Good. All right, good. Excellent. There she is. Okay, good. Hi, Anne. Can you hear us? Oh, there she is. Hi, Anne. Can you hear us?
I can't.
There she is.
I can't. It seems like I have a little bit of a lag. I don't know if it's on my end or your end too.
You're a little choppy.
Your signal's bad, Ann.
Any better? Oof.
Maybe I'll try reconnecting.
You cut out. Do you want to try no video and see if that gives you a little more bandwidth? She jump off? Or she got cut off. All right, 7:05. We'll get going, and then I'm sure she will try again or text one of us and let us know what's going on, and we will just have her join us then. All right. Just gonna make sure, I'm just chatting with RCTV Studios one more time, make sure we're ready to go. I miss Phil already. Is he on vacation this week? Okay, good evening. This is Karen Herrick. I am convening the 6/29/2021 meeting of the Reading Select Board. Caitlin, I just got a text from Anne that she's waiting in the waiting room.
Nope, she's in here.
Okay, good. You know, I have to say that my end seems a little jumpy as well, so we'll do the best we can. Okay, welcome all. So I'm here tonight on this remote meeting of the Reading Select Board with Select Board members Mark Doxer, Ian Johnson Landry, Carlo Bacci, and I know Chris is there, and Chris Haley. So we're all participating remotely. And I'm getting a little bit of an echo, so bear with me. We'll do the best we can. So we'll start off with liaison reports tonight. Caitlin, I do believe Jean Borowski would like to make a public comment tonight, but is she in the waiting room? Have you heard from her? She's ready to go?
Yes, she's in the waiting room.
Okay, thank you very much. And is she the only one?
Yes.
Okay, super, thank you. Okay, after that, we will, so it's really important that we keep these meetings on track. We owe it to the taxpayers, to the residents, and to staff to stick to the agenda and stick to the agenda times whenever possible. So one of the ways we can do that is by using a mechanism called consent agenda. So you'll see that on the agenda tonight for things that we can likely vote on with a minimum of debate. And tonight we have in our consent agenda a proclamation, a vote on a policy that we previously reviewed, and then a vote on consensus VASC volunteer appointments. So on that particular item, I would like to request that we pull out the audit committee because I believe my husband is up for reappointment. So Mark or Carla, would that be okay?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. You'll see further on down the agenda, we have at 8:45 an item where we can do the audit committee. I can hear an echo on somebody's feedback. I don't know if RCTV is playing in the background anywhere. Okay, after that, I wanted to ask the VASC committee if there are any other appointments that they need to bring to the full select board that we should pull out for that second agenda item. For 8:45, are there any other recommendations that you maybe didn't agree with or you need to reach the full board? Okay, Carla?
Thank you. Nothing of disagreement. I think Mark and I might have some comments on, it's up to Mark actually on one vote that I voted no and Mark abstained from the vote. And then also wanted to mention, is Laura going to join us tonight to discuss Board of Registrars?
That is not on the agenda for this evening. So I know we received an update, but that is not on the agenda.
Okay.
So we can take it up at our next meeting. Okay, so which committee was that? We should probably pull that out as well and discuss it at 8:45.
Climate Advisory Committee. Mark, are you okay with that?
Let's pull it out. Yep.
Okay, good. All right, so just two. Okay, so that's great. So after we do our consent agenda, then we'll get into our regular agenda. And things that are, looking back at Robert's minutes, things that we can do when we have motions that need to be read. If somebody asks for a motion to do X, Y, Z, and they're very specific, one of the other select board members can say, so moved. We don't need to read it again. So wanted to let everybody know that we can and should use that in the interest of time. And the other thing we want to try to do is make great use of I concur. If another select board member speaks prior to you speaking and basically says everything you agree with, you can simply say, I concur. And that'll keep us on track and being able to stick to a schedule so that, you know, people in the audience know when we'll be taking up a topic, and especially people that are coming to present to us are not kept waiting for a ridiculous amount of time. So if you would help me in trying to use those protocols whenever possible, that would be terrific. A third item is that we really want to keep from duplicating what previous select board members have said in the interest of keeping our agenda on schedule. It is, we want to bring up new items. Occasionally, I'm going to start taking the pulse of the board. You know, maybe after we have the first go round, I will ask, you know, if board members need to hear more. And if they don't, then we will either move to the next item or take the vote, however it is appropriate. And I think that is a good start for making sure that we stay on track on this lovely summer evening. Okay, so first up would be, oh, and finally, sorry, let me just, during the regular agenda, we will be going into executive session. We will not be returning to public session after that. Bob, before I get started, the outdoor dining placeholder, do we have anybody who actually wants to use that slot?
No, we don't need that.
Okay, so I guess that would be a perfect time to take a break, because that is space on the agenda that is not being used, and we want to start executive session exactly on time. All right, great. First up then.
Karen, excuse me, Anne has been trying to get her hand up.
Okay, well, okay, and
Okay, well, sorry, I just was hoping that we could, in terms of pulling a couple of other items from the VAX appointments, not because I don't necessarily consent, but just had some questions. Hoping we could pull the park appointments from the consent agenda, so we can have an opportunity to ask questions on that.
okay, Anne, you were completely broken up, but I don't know if other members involved.
Anne, you were
Okay, who,
Yeah, it's very staticky and choppy. Yes, I can't hear her at all.
okay, I couldn't either.
Yeah, what I think,
Okay,
I think I heard a little bit. I think what I heard is that she would like to talk more about some of the folks on the VASC list. She's not sure if they specifically would need to be called out, but she wanted to talk a little bit more about the list. Did I catch that, Anne?
Ann, can you hear us okay?
she says she's going to, in the chat, she's gonna leave and try to join from her phone. She was asking if the park appointments could be pulled from the VASC list for questions, which is fine with me. We could have audit, climate advisory committee, and the park committee. So if that's okay with the other boards, we could pull that into the 8:45 agenda item.
Sure.
Chris?
Yeah, that works.
Okay. Mark, you okay with that?
Yeah, I have a delicate question. So the delicate question is this. It relates to HRAC. There's one member that we got an initial indication of interest in coming back in, but then we also heard perhaps they didn't want to come back in, and we haven't had any updates. So not sure if that's one that should be left in the consent agenda or pulled out.
And you recommended that they be appointed?
We actually took, I think we took no action. Am I correct, Carlo? Yeah, we actually took no action.
Yeah, there is someone who was term was up and they weren't getting back to us. Caitlin made several attempts. And Mark, I think we can reveal who it is because I think it would help maybe push this along.
Yeah, so it's Maddie Herrick for the associate position on, for an associate position on HRAC.
Okay, I do have some inside information that she sent in an email with her resignation, so, I don't think you need to worry about that.
I haven't seen that email, Karen.
Well, I can't track it down during this meeting, but, what do you have for an email for her? Because you can email her one more time.
I'll have to go look. She responded to one weeks ago, but then that was it.
Yeah.
So I think it's the right email.
I don't think you need to pull that out. You can just proceed because she resigned. She told me she resigned, so it's fine.
Okay, that being the case, then I'd like to request that the HVAC be pulled out also.
Because why?
We had conflicting information and we took kind of a contingent vote based on that information.
Mhm.
We didn't include that in the packet that was published, but we did
Okay.
talk about it and we'd share that.
Okay. All right. Well, there's no, I mean, okay, it's fine. You can just change your recommendation and we'll just vote on that. That's fine. All right, so audit, climate advisory committee and park. All for 8:45. Great.
And HVAC.
Yeah, what did I say?
You said audit, climate advisory and park.
Okay, I'm pretty sure I said HVAC, but good. Yep, I have 4 written down in front of me. I might have said HVAC, I mean, climate twice, I guess. Okay, who'd like to go first with liaisons?
I just had one other question, Karen.
Okay, Chris, we're doing liaisons right now. Are we doing liaisons? Is this a
Well-
liaison related question?
What? No, I had my hand up for the prior thing. But go ahead.
You need more information on the prior information about the consent agenda, or
I was just wondering if FinCom, the appointments for that were being brought up, or that doesn't apply with VASC stuff?
that's not under the capacity of VASC, so no, those are not on this agenda.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, who would like to go first with liaisons? Mark, did I see your hand up? Go for it.
You did. Thanks. Thanks, Karen. So 3 updates. First, Council on Aging. 2 things. One, ecstatic about the senior center opening. And I know that a few board members were able to get over there and to just say hello. And that was fantastic. And I know many people came by and many people are very interested and happy that things are going. So that was kind of point number 1. That's great. And I want to shout out to the staff of Elder and Human Services. I actually shout out to the entire staff, but for the moment, let's talk about Elder and Human Services. Did a really nice job of staying in contact with the community and making sure that people had someone to talk to. There were activities that were going on. There were some drive-through opportunities for food and a few other activities that were great, but I think everybody is ecstatic now that they're able to do things a little bit more. There is a canopy that's set up outside over the patio area. I'll call it kind of the front that's closest to Main Street. And it's open on 3 sides, and that is great. And I hope that there can be great use of that for many months, or as many months as it can work with weather and things like that. Second update from the council is the town meeting had voted some funds to explore the needs related to services and potentially facilities. And the council very much wants to stay involved with that. Obviously, Kevin Bowmiller is going to be leading a lot of those activities, but the council is very interested in keeping that moving forward. Second, the Commissioner of Trusts. The big update is that there is a group that has submitted a bid for the Reading Response Program. That bid is being, it's going to hopefully proceed based on the contract being acceptable, and then we'll have that in place, which will allow for seniors who meet a certain income threshold to get rides to appointments and things that are desperately needed. And it was very hard to do this during COVID, but I think it'll work out much better after COVID. And we think we've identified a very good vendor on that. Should be an update, I hope, by the next meeting on that. Third is that Ann and I met together with Chief Clark, Deputy Chief Amendola, and had some very good discussions, kind of to just kind of get communications back to open up. A couple of suggestions came from that, and I'll ask Ann to follow up after my comments. One is that it would be great to put together kind of a badge pinning ceremony. Early in the evening seems to be the consensus for the timing. Perhaps it can be done at a venue like the PAC or something like that, as there are a number of new people that have joined, as well as promotions, including those of Chief Clark and Deputy Chief Amendola. So there's a lot of good things there. The Chief, Deputy Chief are going to kind of take a look at timing to see what can work and then come back to us. But Ann and I suggested we thought the board would be very receptive to that. Obviously, the board can respond on that. The other thing we talked a little bit about was to establish more of a regular communication with the board and the departments. And I think we'd probably like to extend the same program out to the fire department, of course, but perhaps we could get onto a quarterly meeting type of an agenda where the board could have questions and things like that. And then probably the chief and deputy chief would come in and talk with the board about things that they're working on. If there were questions that the board had that they'd like to address, it'd be great to give them just some advance notice. They can come in prepared for those activities. We kind of talked about getting into a more regular cadence again of those discussions. Talked about how frequently we should do it. Quarterly seemed to feel pretty good. Again, that's just some feedback to share with the board. And anything further from your perspective?
Absolutely agree, Mark, that the main takeaways were having a fall badge pinning ceremony. We had previously also been in touch with Chief Burns. Early evening seems to be the consensus. Perhaps 6:30. I think there was some talk of 6 o'clock, some talk of 7 o'clock. Perhaps 6:30 would be a happy medium. And perhaps we could do some kind of joint ceremony, which could be sort of a very nice ceremony for both departments. But we certainly can continue that conversation. And then also the quarterly reports. I think also something that came out of the conversation was, just a desire to be able to, work collaboratively and to do some, positive working together for the benefit of the community. And that's something that I think Mark and I certainly feel very strongly about, if I can speak for you, Mark, on that front. And I think out of that as well, we talked a little bit, and this might be something for a future agenda, having some recognition of sort of some of the unsung heroes and heroines of the town across departments coming out of the pandemic. There's been so much hard work done across departments. It might be a nice opportunity, hopefully, once we can take a little bit of a breath, to recognize some of the heroic efforts across departments since the start of the pandemic.
Very good. Anne, since you were speaking, did you have any more liaison reports you wanted to add in, or is that the bulk of it? And that's a lot.
That was my main report as well.
Wonderful. I'm all in favor. So this sounds lovely. Okay, who'd like to go next? Then Chris, Carlo. Okay, Chris.
Thank you, Karen. Yeah, the audit committee was back in person, and the audit ended up coming back pretty fantastic. So Sharon and everybody who worked with the auditors and all that, it came back as, like I just mentioned, pretty good for the town. The other thing that I learned during the committee is the water meters going forward are being replaced with some beta tests. They've already done 150 or something like that water meters, because the current situation is you have to drive around. One guy drives around and pulls all the numbers from all the various meters. So the newer ones are more of a smart meter and whatnot, but it requires a complete replacement of your water meters. So it's not something that you can just clip on yourself. So somehow that tied into the audit committee, but it was brought up. The other thing was the school committee had their first meeting in person as well. And Dr. Doherty gave his final presentation of the year for that. He had mentioned that we have all of the positions other than the Birch Meadow principal one was filled. So contrary to the June 17th article in the Reading Chronicle, Jessica Akumu was offered the position for Birch Meadow, which she unfortunately turned down. So we had to go back out, and then I got the email yesterday after the meeting that they had that they found a new principal for Birch Meadow. So I'm pretty happy that my daughter, my future Birch Meadow Birchie Bear will be going there, and I hope everything works out. And I'd just like to thank Dr. Doherty for all his time that he spent in Reading, 35 years. I'm probably screwing that up, but it seems like forever. Same thing with Mrs. Hendricks. She worked with my wife on the PTO for many years, and my daughter, my oldest daughter, Autumn, like completely adored her. So we wish them both the best going forward. And that's all I got.
Super. Thanks, Chris. Carlo?
Thank you.
Nothing this go around. Vass kept me pretty busy. Thanks.
No worry, absolutely understand. I have a quick update, and that is I joined the chair of the Climate Advisory Committee, David Zeke, and I believe Mark also submitted testimony to the State House last week asking for legislative help in getting green communities approved so that Reading could easily join, and not just doing it for the benefit of Reading, but the benefit of all approximately 20 odd municipal light departments that have yet to join green communities. Chair Barrett at least was sounded pretty supportive of trying to get 100% participation, and followed up with Senator Lewis, and we'll continue to follow up. But they are working on it, and it's pretty strong commitment at the State House to get people doing everything they can to conserve energy and implement greener energy sources in our municipalities. Okay, so that's it. All right, we have Finance Committee member Jean Borowski in the waiting room for public comment. Bob, did you have a question?
Thanks. Yeah, no, I have a town manager report.
Okay, may I ask, since she's been waiting, could we have her do her 2 minutes, and then we can focus on your report? Would that be okay? I apologize. Okay, thank you. If we could let Jean in, she'd like to talk to us about Porch Fest coming up. Jean. Oh, are you mute? There you go. Okay, welcome.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much for having me here tonight. I just wanted to briefly update the committee, the select board, about a couple of events happening this fall, organized by a couple of different groups that I'm really excited about, and I think you will be too. The Porch Fest committee has regrouped and had permission from the town to run Porch Fest on Saturday, September 11th from noon to 6. So for those of you who might remember, Porch Fest came to Reading 2 years ago as part of the Reading 375th anniversary, and it was incredibly well received in the community. At the time, I remember they were hoping to get 20 bands and porches. For those of you who don't know, Porch Fest is an afternoon where there's live music all over town on people's front porches, front driveways, front lawns. It's all free. It's very much intended to bring the community together and just celebrate the talent that exists here in town. And people loved it. We initially were really hoping to get more than 20 bands, and we ended up with more than 30. And I think this year promises to be even better and bigger. Last year, they did hold a second Porch Fest, but it was virtual because of COVID. And we're just really excited to be back together again. So that's going to happen on Saturday, September 11th. The next day, Sunday, September 12th, the Reading Rotary is thrilled to let you all know that we've had permission from the town to run the Fall Street Fair. So we're in the process of quickly getting the website up and vendors and sponsors and all of the tremendous amount of work that goes into making that event happen. And I must say, for both events, both organizations have enjoyed tremendous partnership from the town. We're just really grateful for the level of partnership Town Hall's given us to help, help us understand how to make these events happen for the community. The third and final event I wanted to make the select board aware of, you may have noted those dates. These events are happening on September 11th and 12th. That is the 20th anniversary, the weekend of the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks. And, you know, we had some conversation about how do you honor that memory and how do you honor that anniversary in the midst of what I think are very appropriate events for the community to come together. And so we're working on a 9/11 commemoration on the Common on Saturday, September 11th. That'll be at 11:30 a.m. We're still working out the details, but the theme for the event is light in the darkness. We've had some conversations about how 9/11 was a very dark time in our country. We're coming out of a very dark time in our country with the pandemic. And this seems like a moment to reflect on how we as a community and as individuals come through difficult times. So the theme will be light in the darkness. We're working on a band, we're working on a choral group, we're actually working on a lyrical dance, all doing performances that are tied to this idea of light during dark times. And I think what I might be most excited about is we have settled on 3 keynote speakers, we hope. We hope they'll be writing students. So we're running a writing contest. It will be for kindergartners through 12th graders. There will be an elementary winner, a middle school winner, and a high school winner. And so we're hoping the three students will be the speakers at this event. And again, their theme is light in the darkness. They can enter essays or poems. So they have some choice about what they write. And I'm working on putting together a judging panel of people from around town, different walks of life, to read the essays and judge them based on some criteria that's in the contest rules. I will say that I'm not ready to announce the full judging panel just yet because we're working on a few last pieces. But we've had a member of the school committee will be joining us, a member of the library board of trustees will be joining us. The new superintendent of schools has agreed to be a judge. So it's a great opportunity for him to read some student writing before the school year starts. And I'm very happy that your colleague, Mark Doxer, has agreed to serve on the judging panel. So big thanks to Mark. So all of the details for these can be found at readingporchfest.com, and the Fall Street Fair and the writing contest are at fallstreetfair.com. And obviously we're all over social media, and just really want to thank the town for the support and the partnership as we prepare these, and ask for the 6 of you, anything you can do to help get the word out on social media, like and share, emails to people that you know, talking it up in the community. The big thing now, we just want everyone aware that these events are going to happen and people should get excited.
I'm excited. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jean.
Thanks, Jean.
Thank you.
Okay, Bob, welcome back. You look 10 years younger.
Whoops, Jean's gone. I wanted to thank Jean for her kind words. There's also, starting on September 7th, a Reading Art Walk, and that goes through the rest of the month. You will find that information also on that website. Importantly, the Pleasant Street Center and the Reading Public Library are now open as cooling centers. We'd ask all residents, at least for the next couple of days, to please check on your elderly neighbors and stay hydrated. Check the town website for any updates. I do understand that sometime on Thursday, we're going to get a 30-degree drop. So, you know, this will pass, as they say. Hazardous Waste Day was this past Saturday at the DPW yard for Reading and Wakefield residents, and it was extremely busy. There was huge overflow. The line had to be stopped early because it took over 2 hours for those in line to be served by the vendor. August 28th, and again, this is on the town's website, August 28th, a Saturday, from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. for Reading residents only. The vendor will return for anyone that was not able to be served over the weekend. You know, please see the website for details. You can call DPW at 781-942-9077, which is also on the website. Another DPW item, starting July 19th, the vendor Simply Recycling is no longer able to pick up the pink bags, and they have to change the schedule. They're going to now ask all residents that participate to call them to schedule a pickup because they just don't have the staff to come out every day and sort of wander the town, if you will. So for those that are doing the Simpler Recycling program, again, check this on the website. There's a phone number to call to schedule an appointment. It's 866-835-5068. or email info@simplerecycling.com. And again, this will not affect the regular rubbish or recycling pickup. This is just for the pink bags. They will no longer be accepted on your rubbish and recycling day. You have to make an appointment. There are two requests from board members for the tracking spreadsheet that I should mention. One is the town plans to upgrade the website. We're on a waiting list. We'll get some progress sometime next winter. So that closes off one of the requests from a resident. And for one of the civics projects, there was a student asking about animal crossings. And that was taken up in my absence last week by PTTTF, or however many T's there are. And Chris Cole responded to Mark Doxer that the new select board policy article 4.17 prohibits putting up signs, but in any event, it would be impractical to put up signs because animals cross the streets everywhere in town. And so Mark just asked me to mention that tonight. Two last things. There was a great meeting about 10 days ago for the local rapid recovery plan program, otherwise shortened to LRRP. It's a grant-funded endeavor to help area businesses get back on their feet. Please see the website under the economic development LRRP section. There's a huge amount of information. There's staff presentations, consultant presentations. There's some really interesting survey results for both businesses and customers. It's just a huge amount of information and some pretty helpful links. And lastly, we are at fiscal year end, so the staff will be very busy for the next couple of weeks. So if you send us a request or try to reach us on the phone, we'll get back to you as quickly as we can. That's all I have. Thanks, Karen.
Bob, did you, one more thing, before you went on vacation, you were able to go over, meet with Wakefield regarding Camp Curtisville. Could you give us a quick update on that?
Oh, yeah, I think that was in your packet. We met with Wakefield. Representative Jones's office attended all the meetings. Camp Curtis has not offered us enough dry land to build a garage on for just one community, let alone two. We explored it. We actually bought a drone and flew over it for the areas we couldn't walk through, our conservation agent. And we just had to agree to back away quietly. There will be no shared garage at Camp Curtis. We'll have to go to Plan B. And again, there wasn't enough dry land even for Reading to build a DPW garage. There is two parcels that are dry. One is very contingent, or next to Camp Curtis land, kind of inland. So maybe that's not quite as accessible, but there's a parcel right on Haverhill Street that's about an acre that's very dry. So, you can put that into your thinking cap in terms of if there's any projects that land would be beneficial for. For instance, I don't really think it would make a great community garden. On Haverhill Street, that doesn't seem like the ideal location for people to be parking safely. But again, there is some land available. The Guard was very good to work with. The governor helped us January of 2020 to get together, which I really appreciated. They couldn't have been any more considerate, but they just did not have any more land that they owned that they could consider for this endeavor. So we'll have to regather internally and then come to the public with alternative plans, I guess. But for now, the redevelopment is off. There is no more planned economic development on the DPW site. If we happen to find another parcel, there could be, but we've done that before and there just wasn't. So that's it.
Thank you. It's disappointing, but I know people have been anxious to hear what was over there. So at least now we know. Any questions about the report from board members? Mark?
Thanks, Karen. Bob, so yeah, a bummer is my first comment. Second comment is, do we know how much space RMLD is in need of? I'm assuming that acre is not enough. Is that a true statement?
I'm not sure I understand. I knew a couple of years ago in terms of what they're willing to change for their location. Are you thinking of something other than office space?
No. I know that at one point when we had kind of the master plan for all of the activity in that area to move, that one of the things we wanted to make sure of is that we look for space that RMLD might consider as well. And I don't know how much space is they're in need of to accommodate their needs. I'm just thinking, and I know there's a plan B, and I'm kind of jumping ahead, and I apologize.
No,
I just want to think of that.
That's an interesting thought. I'll follow up with Colleen. They were perfectly happy to stay in the rough area of a redeveloped parcel. So, you know, for those that have been inside, it's not a very collaborative working environment. It's, as Colleen once said, it's like four doctors that don't like each other built the building. So they would prefer to be in a generic office. So if, for instance, the site's area, which generally was redeveloped, and there was some office space available, they would be happy to snap it up. But I can ask whether they'd, you know, have, and I'd have to ask the guard whether that would be okay, because DPW was okay because we worked together. You know, RMLD, I assume they work together, but probably a lot less. But let me find out. It's an interesting idea.
Thanks, Bob.
Anne, did you have a question? Thank you, Mark.
Yes, I did have a question. Thanks, Bob, for including the independent tracking.
I'm sorry, Ann, I just can't really hear you.
How is this?
It's a little better.
Why don't I might turn my video off in case that helps. I'm turning off my video in case that helps. Does this help?
It's a
Is
little.
this any better? Is this any better?
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Oh,
correct.
yeah.
Okay. Bob, thank you for including sort of the results of the tracking system. I think that's helpful. And I think if we did it on a meeting by meeting basis, it will be even more useful, because obviously this is 6 months plus worth of incoming requests. But I did have some questions that actually go as much to a couple of my fellow board members as to Bob, given some of what's tracked here. There's some inquiries that don't have a mention of having received a select board response. And I don't know if Carlo and Mark could speak to whether that's reflected in the fact that they didn't copy Bob on the response, or whether, you know, if there was something that was repetitive of a resident who's emailed on the same topic at multiple times, they didn't provide a response. Just wanted to understand what it means when there's a blank for the select board response.
Mark?
Thanks, Karen. So this is a great question for the board to discuss. My approach has been that if there is a response for the town to take, then I would put Bob into copy and potentially other members of staff. And if it was not asking for a staff activity, then I did not copy Bob on it, just to try to contribute to a little bit less of his email flow.
Got it. Okay. But you responded, but Bob wouldn't have a way to know that kind of thing.
I'm responding to any email that comes in to the board from a resident, basically.
Okay.
Not if someone is soliciting us for new equipment, things like that.
Right. Okay. That's helpful. Thank you, Bob. So just taking a look here, you know, I think there are some resident inquiries that I think we're probably going to end up addressing in some fashion this evening, whether it's with respect to open meeting law complaints or plans for future meeting locations. I think that will be responsive to some questions. Bob, I know there were a number of inquiries that came in from high school students, and I didn't know if Bob and or board members had responded to all of those inquiries. And I think there were a handful of those.
Mark?
Thanks, Karen. So as secretary, I am responding to any inquiry that's coming in with a essentially acknowledgement that we've received the inquiry. Sometimes if there is an area for them to to look at, to contact, that would be included there. But I'm responding to all inquiries coming in.
Got it. To the extent there were any are there any outstanding questions from students that we owe a response to? I know that I see it reflected in here that there was, to the extent there were questions about the high school track, that Bob had provided an explanation there. It sounds like the PTTF took up some questions, but are we otherwise covered with respect to questions coming in from students?
Mark?
Try to answer that one, and let me. So, the inquiries that came in, for example, Bob today responded. I had asked him to respond related to the wildlife versus traffic question.
Yes.
So
right.
that one, it had a follow-up that went in. It went into the PTTF. They had a discussion, and then wanted to make sure that the loop got closed, and we had kind of follow-up. So that was the reason I asked Bob to mention it tonight. But for example, the stadium turf and track, Bob has responded to that one, but the board hasn't done anything other than acknowledging receipt.
Okay, but they've received a response from the town in terms of what the status is with respect to what town meeting did.
Yes.
It sounds like.
From Bob, yes.
Okay. And I see, Mark, that you responded about the select board policy to Lois Bell regarding email transparency. From the inquiry from Donna with respect to the select board's policy around flags, was that a simple receipt, Mark, or did in that response you provide any explanation, or did anyone provide any explanation with respect to the fact that the flag that was the pride flag was something that was originated from the board, but in terms of other inquiries or requests coming from outside parties or groups, you'd need to develop a select board policy?
So I only acknowledged receipt on that one.
Okay. All right. Did anyone else respond to Donna on that one? Okay, if folks like, I can respond to her with what I've just said.
I think Chris has his hand up to respond.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just letting everyone know that
Chris, I need to recognize you as the chair.
Okay.
I have to flip my screen around, but yes, you may go ahead.
Thanks, Karen. I only reply to emails that end up getting sent to me individually. So even if something pertains where I think I could give my own feedback, I prefer to err on the side of caution and just let Mark handle things. So as much as I'd love to on some of them, I think it's just so you know from me.
That makes sense. And I think if, to the extent we have these, if Bob can provide us sort of on a regular basis, this updated spreadsheet, I think that's helpful. And if we can sort of flag, oh wait, there's an outstanding question that we didn't close the loop on, then we could maybe figure out how to dispose of those outstanding issues. So if for example, if folks are comfortable, I don't mind responding to Donna with that information.
I'm comfortable. Mark?
Two things. One, maybe to clarify. So with Lois Bell's request, what I was able to do was to just give her a reference to the exact select board policy. That she asked about. She didn't ask about it specifically. She said, what's the policy? I sent her policy 5 point whatever it is. And then in terms of other activities, I think that at some point, maybe that's a good agenda item to discuss if and how people should respond, individually, of course. So as there's a structure for secretary, I'm trying to stay with that. And I think
which makes sense.
Yeah, if members want to adjust or adapt or change that, then I think we should make an agenda item for that and talk about it.
Okay, excellent. So that is, that concludes the town manager's report. Okay, so on to the consent agenda. The way this can work is we will have a motion to approve the 3 items listed. And then we can have a discussion or any questions about it. At that point, it might be appropriate for Chris, you brought the Eagle Scout proclamation before. If you would want to briefly just specifically mention the Eagle Scouts, very impressive. We can see all of the projects, but if you want to go ahead and just recognize them publicly, and then we can vote on the consent agenda. Does that sound good? Mark, would you like to make the motion, or would you like me to make it and you can say so moved?
If you have specific words, please feel free. Otherwise, I would just do a quick general one.
Okay, no, you can do it. Thank you.
Motion to approve the 3 items listed on the consent agenda.
So moved.
Do we need within the motion to remove the 3 appointments that we'd like to have further discussion on?
So I don't know the answer to that, but we did have a discussion earlier that we removed the audit, the Climate Advisory Committee, HRAC, and Park. Oh, we did discuss it.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so hopefully that, I would think that would be sufficient. Okay, are there any comments? Chris?
Thanks, Karen. Yeah, so I did get to end up meeting with the Eagle Scouts. And first and foremost, I'd like to, during the meeting, I thanked you, Bob, and Caitlin for expediting this to the agenda, because I know it was short notice, and they appreciated it, and so did I. So thank you guys so much for that. But yeah, it's Tommy, Jeremy, Kyle, Scouten, even though I butchered his name and said Scooten. It's Kyle Scouten, Mike and Ryland. It's pretty impressive what they do, because I was never a Boy Scout, so I didn't know what it entailed and whatnot. And I knew they did like good deeds and that kind of stuff, but I didn't know to the extent it was all around town. All those red bands that showed up on the telephone poles. It's just pretty incredible the amount of time and effort that these young men just devoted to just making better, everything better for the town, and safety overall, and removing invasive species and landscaping. It's, I was never a part of it when I was growing up, and I'm happy to see that these guys are all on the right track going forward. So I'd like to thank all of them and all of you guys for expediting this. So I really appreciate it.
Okay, any other discussion? Just looking, I see Mark's hand up.
Thanks, Karen. I'm wondering, so these were another example of when we were in session where we could actually have a little bit more of a ceremony and allow the families to come in and celebrate, because this is quite an accomplishment. There are a number of folks that get into Scouts, myself included, that don't go all the way through Eagle Scout. And it's great stuff. And I just wonder if we ought to find a way to, we'll recognize them with the certificates and sign all the certificates, obviously, but I wonder if maybe at some point we should have a ceremony to honor them and their families as well.
Okay. Carla, you concur?
I think it's a great idea, because as Mark said, that's been standard procedure for the great things that these young men do.
And women with Girl Scouts, by the way, too, just to be clear. Silver awards and things.
And
And
actually,
I think it's now the Scouts, right, Karen?
yes, I was corrected on that. Scouts are Scouts, and we should be seeing all kinds of gender names on these certificates going forward. But it is a wonderful organization and great service they do for our community. I appreciate that. Okay, are we ready for the vote on this consent agenda? Oh, Bob?
Yeah, for the fuel efficient vehicle policy, there's also a requirement that the town write, and you saw a sample adoption letter in your packet. So if the board wants to designate staff to write the letter and sign it on your behalf, Karen will certainly do that.
I don't have an objection to that. Chris?
Thanks, Karen. I also heard from the school committee chair that that's not the correct policy that they ended up approving. That's in our packet. So I don't know if there's an updated one with a couple differences. Bob, I guess you have it.
Well, my understanding, and I haven't seen anything in writing, my understanding was the only change they made was to their vehicle inventory, not to the actual wording of the policy. So I think the wording of the policy you have is okay. I'm just guessing because that's what I heard. But again, I haven't seen it, Chris. If we need to, we'll bring it back. That's the easiest way.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, Mark?
Sorry, quick question. I know that this is a policy that the board is adopting. Does the school committee adopt? I guess the question is, are we responsible? Do all the vehicle purchases come through purchasing and therefore the select board approving the policy is sufficient?
No, the school committee adopted the policy. They had 2 different readings. And then our MLT commissioners, I assume, will do the same. So no, you're not responsible.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Then I'm comfortable.
Okay, board members, are we ready for a vote?
Quick question, Karen, was there a second on that?
I said so moved. Yes, there was a second.
Okay. Is that a second? Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
I'll second.
No, well, I would like to move, you say, move to XYZ, so moved. That's your second. Okay, so board members, I can roll call vote as I see you on the consent agenda motion. Mark,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Carlo,
Yes.
and as I know you're out there, I only see your name though.
Yes.
And Karen, yes. Thank you. Okay. Okay, so moving on to our regular agenda, and we're only 7 minutes behind. We're doing great. Okay. Okay, so we have a lot of information in our packet. Bob, did you have anything to add to that? Or was somebody going to present this to us?
I assume Chris Latham's in the waiting room, Caitlin. Yeah, here he comes.
Okay, super. And I did note, and Bob, could you just confirm all of this has been approved by CPDC and everybody's seen everything and staff has seen all of this?
That's correct for what you saw, and we'll see what happens tonight.
Okay. Okay, I see Chris Latham, welcome. And I see at least one of the project folks, and I'm not sure who Mr. Mackey is.
Yeah, so hi, Chris Latham, good to see you all. Severio Fulcinetti is here, and also Aaron Mackey is here. Aaron Mackey is an engineer. He's been working with us on the project, and he's also been in communication with both the parking and traffic task force, as well as the town engineering department. If you'd like, would you like me to just roll through?
So, sure. I do have a question prior to that. So Bob, in our packet, the report from staff said we may need a hearing on this later this summer. This is not a hearing. How will we know, or what do we need to get out of this presentation to know if we need a hearing?
I think you'd need to listen to whatever Chris is requesting, and if the board wants to proceed to a hearing to actually do something, then that's when you'd know.
Okay. Great. Thanks, Chris. I mean, sorry. Yes, Chris. Sorry, let me get back on my screen. Okay, so go ahead, Chris. I appreciate it.
He's muted.
Chris, we can't hear you.
Sorry, I'm getting a little rusty at this. All right, so Severio obviously is here, and Mr. Mackey, the engineer, is here as well. We're here to present the parking and traffic task forces, as well as the CPDC's proposed improvements to Chapin Avenue. These plans sort of evolved over the course of site plan review, starting as far back as July of 2020. and going through multiple hearings up through February 2021 before CPDC, Parking Task Force, Design Review, Historic Commission, et cetera, et cetera. So in addition, for the board's reference, the town engineering department has been involved and has seen this project, this proposal, and this particular proposal by the Parking Task Force and CPDC that's before you tonight. And from what I understand, they have reviewed it and they have approved the proposed improvements. So with that said, the improvements are designed to provide greater pedestrian safety as well as street calming. And they include a 24-foot wide Chapin Avenue, remaining a two-way street with two 8 feet by 22-foot parking spaces along the south side of Chapin Avenue with a sidewalk jog. It also includes concrete sidewalks that would basically be 4 feet in width with granite curbing on both sides of Chapin Avenue for the extent of 531 Main Street, with the exception of existing parking lot and garage access, and tying those sidewalks into the Main Street sidewalks with ADA compliant ramps at the corners and at the ends. It's also proposed that a level sidewalk or plateau would be constructed along the building facade at the south corner of Main Street in Chapin for possible future seating with also a handrail and curbing because of the change in elevation, the natural change in elevation on Chapin Avenue as it approaches Main Street. It also proposes landscape area in the sidewalk, particularly in the sidewalk bump out, relocation of an existing street tree with a new street tree, and also planting an additional street tree. And also the addition of at least two sets of public bike racks on the sidewalk. So with that being said, I'm going to turn over the details to Engineer Aaron Mackey. If you have any questions, or he'll be the one that can probably answer. Thank you.
Just if I could interject, sharing a screen with a map would be very helpful for the board, I think. Do you want me to do that, or do you guys want to do that?
Aaron, do you want to do it, or?
Yeah, I can share.
Okay.
Thank you. I was just trying to pull it up in the packet. I appreciate that.
So can you all see that?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I think Chris did a good job in summarizing the proposal. As I can quickly walk through it if you would like, or we could jump right into questions. How would you like to proceed?
Hang on a second. Board members, do you have any questions? This material was in our packet. Oh, Mark?
Thanks, Karen. I think it would be good just to do a quick walkthrough. A couple things I just wanted to make sure. One is that the compass rose that's at the top of that map, I assume that that's pointing to north, but I just wanted to make sure. It's been a while since I've looked at that.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so when you say the south side, that's right below the word avenue on Chapin Avenue, right?
That would be the north side. South side would be along the
next to the building. Thank you.
Recently approved building.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I can walk through quickly. I'll just go from left to right. So you can see here, it was an existing street tree. We are proposing to relocate that slightly south. That's to not interfere with building overhangs that would be new with the proposed structure. And we're proposing to replace brickwork in the existing tree pit and also install a couple bike racks in that location. Moving along with Historic Commission, we decided to install a granite block with brick banding, reconstruction of this corner with a 10-foot radius and ADA ramp. Same thing across the side of Chapin, reconstruction of ADA ramp. Both sides of Chapin would have 4-foot wide sidewalks with a 24-foot wide roadway in between. 22-foot by 8-foot parallel stalls are proposed here. That level landing, which was requested by CPDC, I also spoke with engineering, and we worked through it, and we've come up with this solution. So this provides a level plateau here. If you look into the grading sheets, you can see what we did. So this is all relatively flat up top, and the 4-foot wide walk falls away on the back side. So you have, the curb would be flush at this point, and then you gradually get a reveal that would follow the street grade. And we have a railing for protection at the top. So moving along, there'll be a small landscaped area here. And that's just to assist with the grading, because we have a curb return at this entrance to the proposed building. A few more bike racks, and we ramp down to existing grade here because a butter here has garage bays. So we can't run the sidewalk any further, and proposing a street tree at that location. And also we coordinated with the tree warden, and he was satisfied with the locations. Just prior to the installation of trees, he'd like to come out and see, what the sun's doing, and he would pick a species at that point in time. And at this point, I'll kick it back to you, and if there's any questions, happy to answer.
Okay. Just flipping my screen around. Board members, any additional questions? Mark?
Thanks, Karen. So for my reference, the south side of Chapin, prior to the building improvement, what was going on along there?
So the existing condition is, there is a portion, I do have an existing conditions plan. Let me navigate to that. So the existing condition, you have the same similar radius, concrete on either side, but it ends, and you have pavement that just runs building to building. So there's really no formal pedestrian access here or parking. There's no formalized parking. And that's the goal here, is Severo's attempting to build a new building here. He'd like to formalize this area and make it nicer for the tenants. So that would be the goal.
Looks great. Was there any public comment at CPDC about this?
Chris, do you have any notes of?
Yeah, my recollection is the biggest concern was to whether Chapin was going to be made a one-way or remain a two-way. And the sense that I got from most of the abutters is they wanted it to remain a two-way street. And the Parking and Traffic Task Force and CPDC, they reached consensus that they did want some traffic calming, and they did want pedestrian safety to be taken into consideration. And they agreed that they thought 4 feet would be appropriate, that parking should be formalized. They did want the granite curbing, as a safety measure. And the CPDC in particular was very interested in that plateau area.
Great, thanks. No, it looks really good. The access looks great. It actually sounds like we're adding a little bit of parking, if I'm reading this correctly.
It's definitely formalizing what's there, because what's there now is literally, there's nothing for pedestrian safety, and there's absolutely nothing for traffic calming. The pavement goes right up to the existing buildings.
Right.
Thank you.
Carlo, Chris, any questions? Where's Ann? Ann, what do you think?
I don't have any questions right now. Thank you for the presentation. And
Okay, I would agree. I thank you. I do appreciate that you met with a tree warden and that you've come to us, after having been vetted this plan, and I know it's been through a number of iterations with CPDC and also with parking PTTF. And I know there was concern from an earlier CPDC meeting about losing two very mature trees. And are there any other tree contributions that might be left over from this project that you'll be making available to other locations in town?
Sorry, you were asking about the two existing trees that are on the property itself?
Yes, there was a concern that, so I understand that our tree warden, let's just say the baseline is to install, what, 3-inch caliper trees, which are so pretty small. So they take a while to get established. And I think I had heard CPDC expressing concerns about losing those two more mature trees. And I appreciate that you were able to fit in some more landscaped areas. And I see 2 trees on this plan. What I was asking is if there were any other trees coming out of this project that were available for other locations in town.
At this point, no. Those 2 trees that are on the property currently, it wouldn't be financially feasible to try to save them. They're fairly old, and I don't believe they'd transplant well.
Okay, great. So, so at this point, then, as Bobby said, we would need to decide whether we would like to have a public hearing for this later this summer. And I welcome board member thoughts on this at this time. Chris?
Thanks, Karen. So nobody showed up to the public comment on the CPDC side. Is that what I heard prior? Chris, is that what the case was?
We actually had, I think it's a record. I think we had ultimately 6 CPDC hearings. Their public showed up for every single CPDC hearing. So there was plenty of public input in that regard. We've also had, starting last year, 2020, we had probably 2 or 3 historic commission hearings, and we had a design review team, which is obviously staff. And I think we also had a parking task force meeting that is obviously primarily staff as well. But we did have about 6 to 8 public hearings, to my recollection. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Other board member comments? Carlo, thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, guys. Great presentation. Yeah, I think that we should definitely move forward with the hearing so these guys can move forward and get the project going.
Ian, would you like to give us your thoughts?
Thanks. I concur with Carlos' last comment.
Okay. I think we've heard from everybody. Okay, I concur as well. Let's get a hearing scheduled, and given this kind of feedback, it should be a pretty straightforward matter to move forward with this. And I appreciate you folks coming and walking us through this and letting us ask these questions.
Thank you for your time and your input. We appreciate it.
Great. Mark?
Yeah, thanks, Karen. So just wondering from a timing point of view, I'm assuming that it would be helpful to do something over the next 45 days or so. If I don't know what our agendas are looking like going out, but I know we'd have to post publicly, give at least a couple of weeks notice. But maybe we could look at either the next or 1 or 2 meetings hence. And I'm guessing that would be helpful to you folks if we could move it ahead quickly.
That would be great. Thank you.
Okay, noted. All righty. right, thank you very much.
Thanks, folks.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
stay
Thanks,
cool.
everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, 8:10. Okay, Bob, we are going to turn it over to you to give us this broad overview to get us started. Page 33 in our packet.
Okay, let me share the screen.
Thank you.
Different boards over the years have taken a different approach. So I've tried to listen to what you have said during the year and put together draft goals as I'm required to do every June. And to use the bullet point format, for instance, shown below. So I've proposed, along certainly with the help of a lot of the department heads, what I would call 12 broad goals. You can see 5 under community, 4 under policy, and 3 under operations, with a rough sketch. Some of these are continued from prior years, so you can see that. Some of them start, in next year, in FY22. I don't know what the best way for me to review this. I'm happy to go over each of them. But the primary reason for this agenda item was for me to listen to the board. I've presented you some draft goals. Whatever feedback you have is helpful. On the next meeting on July 20th, you'll have a full complement of department heads and most assistant department heads to be available for a deeper discussion. The board had asked for that earlier in the spring. On both, we'll quickly wrap up. It'll be a large thing in your packet, but I don't know that we need to spend a lot of time on current year goals, but you'll get a comprehensive review once tomorrow is over. And then to have a whatever discussion the board wants on sort of policy goals and big picture items going forward. So, Karen, what's the best way for me to proceed tonight in order to let the board members have their say, if you will?
Let's see. Just trying to see the rest of it. I mean, some of these goals get very detailed very quickly. I mean, we could just ask board members if they had comments on particular areas at this point.
Do you want me to just sort of go through one at a time and take comments that way?
How many are there? I'm sorry. I
think it's 12.
Okay, that's kind of a lot. All right, that's not going to fit in a broad overview. Okay. All right. Mark, go ahead.
Thanks, Karen. I'm wondering, would it make sense just for board members to comment kind of by category? For example, I've got comments broken down kind of by category.
Great.
Okay, so start with number 1, as long as that's as we're here. So on sustainability, one of the things that I'd like to focus on more is your item F, but more on walkability in general. And I think, for example, Birch Meadow and a lot of the activity we're discussing for trails and accessibility and other things there would be great to include. The downtown Walkersburg obviously is great, but we talked, actually Carla and I talked as part of the, was it the Trails Committee? I think it was the Trails Committee. They talked about kind of this connection that might be possible of lots of different areas to make things very, very walkable. And I think that's a goal that staff can have a big impact on, more so than just kind of the Trails Committee talking about it. So I'd love to see that become a big part of this item number 1 on sustainability. Thanks.
If I might respond to that, this was a long time ago, so I don't know if any of you are familiar, but have a look on the website or on Google for Northern Area Greenway. That was a proposal from many years ago to connect both sides of Main Street. And the tricky part was, how do you get across Main Street? But it was an intricate trail system going through the town forest all the way to the east side of town. So that might be an example.
All right, any other comments on sustainability? I know I have one. Chris.
Thanks, Karen. So under the water meter replacement project, Bob, does that tie back into what I mentioned earlier from the audit committee about those 150 or so water meters that are getting swapped out?
Yes, it does, Chris.
And
It's in the capital plan, but it's not for 3 or 4 years, and I think we'd all like to do it sooner.
so we definitely end up saving and conserving water that way by swapping them out. Like, do you know what the rationale behind that is? Just so I know.
For instance, if you have a leaky toilet or a break
Oh,
in
yeah.
fashion, then you just know it sooner because your smartphone tells you.
Correct. Yep. And then the electric vehicle charging stations, the 50,000, is each one 10 grand or something? And that doesn't include the 3 that we were getting as a grant or something for this year. This is 50K in 22.
Yeah, we have 50K available, but so far RMLD has been kind of in charge and going through grants. Once they are exhausted in that process, they know we have extra money, if we can finish off what they'd like to do but didn't get to.
Okay, that's what I got for these ones.
Okay, all right, if there are no other comments on sustainability. All right, so Bob, wanted to, I understand and I've seen that Meadowbrook has surveyed some lots for sale. So I see G item under sustainability. That's a great idea. I guess I would just like to make sure that we include this other option, which may be, and you may be able to comment on this. I'm under the impression that this may come up really quickly and may need some input from us. And so our town forest entrance and managing the compost entrance and managing parking along there has been a challenge for a while. So I'm understanding what we might have an opportunity to do something concrete about that.
Yeah, Karen, before the second fire, I could have given you a pretty firm idea of time, schedule, and a plan, but you're right that the town has right of first refusal, as you've seen in other examples of some land down there.
Yeah.
And there's either 6 or 8 single-family homes planned. The second fire kind of threw Meadowbrook for a loop, and they're not sure what they're doing, last I heard. But certainly the town will have plenty of time, 90 days at least, should they decide they do want to proceed and develop the land, to discuss whether we want to buy it or not. And I agree the entrance to the compost center is a walking disaster. We've tried to work with Conscom and the Trails Committee to get the people and the dogs off the driveway, if you will, and have a boardwalk built over the wetter lands, but we just never really got very far. And one of the issues for the community and the board to decide longer term is the space down there where the water treatment plant used to be. One option right now to make it safer is we could open the gate to the water treatment plant area. We believe it's safe, and just let people park. There's areas down there to park. We do have to get permission from Mass DEP because we are under a consent decree to do certain things. So we think they would approve that, but we haven't asked. But if that area is of interest to the board, the staff can certainly put something together to come back to you.
I think that would be wonderful. I think there are a number of community proposals, and I have heard over and over again that it is frustrating that that is always closed. It's such a beautiful parcel, and it looks decrepit. I have pictures, and that's the entrance to our, that is the entrance to our town forest. So it's a shame. So
when you say closed, I'm not sure what you mean is closed, Karen.
oh, actually, right. So there's multiple gates. There's you can't even get down Strout Ave. So all the cars have to park on Strout off into the woods. And then once you get onto Strout Ave, the gate at the end of the street is closed. So there's a huge overgrown parking lot down there.
Well,
I thought
just
that's
to be,
what you were talking about.
okay, yeah, just to be clear, it's closed to cars, but it's not closed to pedestrians and dogs.
Right. And it is decrepit. So when you said decrepit, like gate, rusty gate, like that's what we have as the entrance to our town forest, blocking off. And I thought that's an obvious place where cars could park. It's already tarmac. So that's kind of what I thought you were talking about.
Okay.
Mark?
Thanks, Karen. So first, I concur with your comments. Second, as it relates to various parcels and the right of first refusal, is it like an all or nothing deal? Or is it kind of pieces, like by parcel, or how might that come to us? Because that might impact how we think about it.
Yeah, Mark, that's a really interesting question. I don't know. I don't know if the seller or the buyer have any discretion, so I'd have to ask.
Yeah, I think that it's worth pursuing. Thanks. Sorry.
All right, could I ask a clarifying question about the northern area greenway concept? Does that include Matera Cabin?
I don't remember if it did at the time. It's right in that area, so my guess is it would. I don't know that Matera Cabin was owned by the town at that point.
Okay, then I would definitely be in favor of that, having that on here as a goal, because that is another decrepit parking lot and underused very valuable piece of open space that we have. So it would be nice to, under sustainability, to kind of tie trails and town forest and Matera Cabin, maybe under this northern area greenway concept, with the idea of keeping an eye out for the parcels like the one you mentioned, like the Meadowbrook one. That would be great. Okay, awesome. Okay, are we ready to move on, board members, to the next one? Seniors? Oh, Mark?
Thanks, Karen. So a lot of great and important things in here. So obviously the programming, the space, the community center concept is very much related to this, but also I think it's kind of separate. And I'm not sure where to bring in the idea of reviewing all town-owned lands to kind of decide best uses. And certainly new senior facilities would fit that. Community center ideas would fit that. There are a bunch of things that could kind of go back and forth. And I happen to love the idea of combination doesn't sound right, but a facility that could have multiple generations using it. Clearly, for it to be useful for seniors, we can't have kids running around, in the same space. That obviously wouldn't make any sense. But the idea of having multi-generations together, I think, would be wonderful. And if it turns out that we have some land that could be well used for that and some opportunities that way, I'd love for that to be part of the stuff that you're exploring.
Chris?
Thanks, Karen. Yeah, I echo what Mark says. Definitely, if there's something that could be used as a combination, maybe even like a community pool or something like that with a senior center on the same parcel, not connected because obviously the kid scenario that you just mentioned, but something like that that's lacking, and then we can free up the existing senior center for something else. So definitely a combination would be my kind of idea as well, like Mark said. Thanks.
Any other comments, Carlo?
Thanks. I also agree with Mark. Mark and I had a lot of great conversations over the past 2 weeks with a lot of people from Council on Aging and other other people who volunteer for other boards and committees about this situation. And we need to do something. I know this has been kicked around for a while, and to no fault of anyone, from COVID on and other things that come up, but there's a lot of need out there, and programming is a big one. We know a lot of our seniors go to other towns and cities for programming. So I think over the next several months, I'm sure surveys have been done in the past, but I like the idea of Mark said about exploring other opportunities of land. A big thing I want to get done sooner than later is identify what we want to do at the Zani property by Burbank that we purchased a year and a half ago or so. So once that's delineated, I think we need to either form a committee or have a series of forums for highest and best use for that property, because we own it, and that's a decent sized property. So I agree with Chris and Mark on those points.
Okay, Anna, are you good with these, or do you want to give some input?
I am good. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. I just wanted to clarify, I'm not a big fan of like question marks and goals, so we need to get rid of these. But what I see in this list is the only thing I see in this list that's going to happen in FY52 is the evaluate the space and building needs. Actually, I take that. So determine post-pandemic programming. Could that be like implement post-pandemic programming? Because I did hear some conversations over at the senior center. And I'm not super, well, we have a new staff member, so I know they have lots of great ideas. So determine is like, think about it. Implement is like, we are post-pandemic and we're going to implement changes to make it more valuable. And I would love to see that versus just spending another year. I honestly, the C and D, they probably aren't going to get done in a year. They're definitely long-term. Okay, that's social justice is next up. Sorry, I got a footmark. Sorry. There you go.
No worries, thanks. So I think this one, I would like to see us make the connections between the different areas of the town, different parts of staff that are going to all be engaged. So there are a lot of things here with library, with HRAC. I know that Chief Clark talked about two things. One is more liaison work that would be involved with this new director. And I know also that we now have a civil rights officer as part of the department and some other areas. So I think it's just to kind of bring all the pieces together so that they're working together and all kind of going ideally in the same direction.
Other board members.
I love seeing the community calendar of events, and I assume that would be working in conjunction with the Director for Equity and Social Justice. So I love that idea of a community calendar of social justice related events. Would town staff operate as event planners as well to help implement that community calendar? What were you thinking about how the events would actually be effectuated?
Anna, could be done. I can think of at least two different ways. One of the broader issues is this community events that town staff know nothing about because we're not in the right Facebook groups, if you will. So whether it's organized and done by town staff or whether it's organized and done by private groups, I think there just needs to be sort of better transparency and communication of events. So whether the town plans an event or not, we can certainly market it and advertise it. I'd leave an open question as to what does the board think that the town's role should be, because we're happy to do it, but we also don't want to be stepping on community organizations' toes and telling them how to do things. So it's kind of a combination.
Got it. Yeah, I think it would be great to also think about, the calendar, what holidays are on the calendar, and sort of ensure that there is something to recognize different occasions in our community, or something to mark different occasions in our community, whether it's organized by the town, by the director, by community groups. It might be so to sort of plan out, not just to host the calendar, but sort of plan out a calendar. And some of those events wouldn't necessarily have to be orchestrated or hosted by the town, although they could be, but just to kind of make sure there are markers for different celebrations throughout the year to foster an inclusive community.
Other board members' comments? Mark?
I'm happy letting Chris speak. Chris speak first. Am I unmuted? Am I muted still?
You are unmuted. I'm
Okay,
looking.
sorry.
okay.
I saw Chris's hand go up and I had already spoken, so I
Yes.
defer to him.
So, thank you for recognizing that. Okay, Chris.
Thanks, Karen. I echo what Ann had mentioned about the community calendar. I'm wondering if that would end up falling under the new director. Would they end up taking control of that instead, planning the community events and everything? Or is it still going to fall upon the town? Or do we not know at this point because they're not hired yet?
I'd say the fairest answer, we don't know yet, but I'd lean towards that position. That's kind of our central focus of the position. So I would assume, that's the direction it would go.
Okay, thank
And
you.
Chris, just because this wasn't clear to me. Oh, sorry, Karen, I can't actually see you on the screen, but I hope, may I be recognized to respond to something Chris said? One thing that wasn't clear to me when I was a brand new board member, so just in case this is helpful to you, the town manager goals are not all necessarily to be effectuated by Bob himself, but by the town as a whole, and with Bob overseeing all of it.
Okay,
Yeah,
thanks.
and then if I might add to that also for Chris's benefit, as you know, there's an elected board of library trustees and they do all the hiring for the library and they set goals for the library staff. But the library staff is very happy to also collaborate with us and they do on everything. So just to be clear, they have goals in addition to whatever we might carve out for them here.
Okay. So I concur with what previous members said. I have a question. We have asked for a diversity hiring, an action item related to diversity hiring, and I'm wondering where this is.
You're going to have to explain what you mean. I don't remember ever having a request like that.
Last fall, we were with the new HR director, we definitely asked for a diversity hiring, an active, proactive, not just today what we have is a we don't discriminate plan. What the select board asked for was a proactive recruiting plan. Would that be under social justice or somewhere else?
I'm not sure, Karen. I'll have to talk to Sean. I know he gave you a presentation. I have to go back and look and see what he did or didn't cover.
I could tell you it wasn't covered and we always have I didn't press it at that point, but we did ask for it and I haven't seen it and he's the guy.
Yeah, from now on, honestly, if you don't see something, you should say so. We certainly wouldn't take it personally. If you want to see something and we haven't covered it, by all means, just say it right away, just for the future.
Yeah,
So-
I think it was touched upon in the presentation around employee attraction and retention, but it was clear there was sort of more work to do in developing that. And he was going to be going to some trainings.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's possible that this falls under the personnel policies that he's planning to come back to you in the summer. I'm not part of that, so I can't say for sure, but I would think it would be. I'll find out though.
Okay, because that would be something that we should consider as an item F. If you're looking at the town outward facing, what is our goal? Are we a welcoming community? Are we proactively reaching out to a diverse workforce? And would people recognize that, we're doing that? And that would definitely be an ongoing goal. Okay, I just want to point out that we are running into agenda timing issues. We are supposed to be on the next item. Could we, at this point, I think we spent some good time on some very important goals. Could I ask board members to bring up specific items for the rest of the 12 versus going through each one at this time? And I would be happy to, if we'd like to talk about these in more detail in another meeting, I would be happy to schedule that.
I'm sorry, Karen, you broke up a lot there. I couldn't.
in the interest of time and keeping on track for this meeting, I was going to ask if board members if we could jump to specific board member comments. And I think this has been a great discussion for the items we've covered so far. And I would be also happy to schedule a follow-up discussion if board members would like to do that. But in the interest of time, I'm looking to wrap up this agenda item for this evening. So my suggestion would be if we have outstanding comments that we want to come forward with now, could we go ahead and jump ahead to those rather than going through each item?
I'm also happy to just take anything in writing from the board. And this is scheduled to be part of the discussion at your next meeting on July 20th. So maybe that's the most efficient way is you got a flavor of the discussion for 3 of these items. All of you should feel welcome to comment on the remaining items. If you could do that by the end of next week, it's a little early, but we're just preparing the 7:20 agenda and presentation. Or if you could tell me by the end of next week that you want to participate but haven't had the time yet, then I can sort of leave a placeholder. But how does that sound?
Okay, so that would be by June 9th, if folks could, and what item would we finish?
Yeah, so you've done 3. If you could comment on 4 through 12, and anything you want to say on 1 through 3 is certainly fine too.
So comments from board members on 4 through 12 to Bob by 7/9. Is that right?
Yes, and we'll assemble all of your comments into a document so you can see them.
Board members, Mark?
So maybe it would be helpful to offer questions that maybe, Bob, you're able to address for next meeting.
Sure.
As an example. So one of the big ones for me relates to these federal grants and learning more about the cans and the can'ts that could fit into that. Because I think that understanding that can help us with some of the suggestions that we may make. You know, for example, if they say, yeah, you can, do all sorts of water infrastructure work, or you can put up a building, or you can buy land, or, those sorts of activities would be really helpful in thinking about, I guess, item 12. I think it's a big important topic because the dollar amount is substantial.
Mm-hmm.
And we have plenty of needs. So
yeah, Sharon will join us on the 20th, and she's the one that's following all us along with Gail Dowd. So, she'll tell you what she knows, at least as of that date, or what the cans and can'ts are. We get updates every 2 or 3 days.
Jeez. Okay.
And one other comment, if I could, and it's a question that'll also help in the framing. As we were talking about things like community calendar, and I know that you're talking about website improvements at the same time. One of the things I'd want to make sure of is that the capabilities that we're going to invest in allow for a more active kind of community calendar. I know that there are some other communities that use the same vendor. There are lots of other communities use the same vendor. That are able to have a community calendar that is what we were talking about, and it's the ability for town groups to kind of post a date and a time for their meetings, things like that. And we'd have to figure out how that structure would work, but I just want to make sure that we wouldn't buy or build something that would preclude that from happening.
I'll check. I don't know that we have that capability, but I'll certainly find out. That's actually a hard thing because you're opening access to anyone to a piece of software the town has.
Yeah, definitely would not open it up to anybody else. It would still be under the control of Matt and Jane. The question would be what gets posted to it and the structure of a community calendar.
Oh, okay. Yeah. If people just want to send things to Matt and Jane, sure.
Yeah, no, I'm not asking people to be able to get into the system and poke around. No.
There are private efforts that other communities have done where a private group, Wakefield was doing it and they stopped it, where 15 organizations shared the same calendar and they all posted to it. I know our website does not have that capability easily, but I'll follow up.
Thank you.
Perfectly reasonable.
Thank you.
Great. This has been very helpful, I think. Okay. Next up, we have a copy of recent town meeting instructional motions. It was very busy for instructional motions at spring town meeting. And Bob, if I'm understanding this, you noted where they should be referred to or addressed by when that was possible?
Yes, that's right. Let me share that document also for the
Thank
public.
you.
So tomorrow night, I believe tomorrow's the 30th, the Rules Committee and the Bylaw Committee are meeting in joint session. And they're going to talk about Articles 1 and 7, I guess, in terms of how to run town meeting. So,
Mhm.
you know, moderator and Rules Committee, they're already meeting on number 7.
Okay.
And then, and the Bylaw Committee is joining them also for number 1. So that kind of leaves things to the board, 2, 3, 4, 5, I guess I'll say.
State parks, picnic tables. Yep.
You know, 2 and 3 specifically were student-led initiatives,
Mhm.
both centered on the Birch Meadow area. So it seemed like the Birch Meadow Subcommittee and the Rec Committee
Mhm.
could easily address that.
Mhm.
And they have already done so. Item 4, CPDC is already working on this.
Mhm.
I do not think they will be ready for this November town meeting, but they've got it on their work plan. And then number 5 was pretty comprehensive. I think he even suggested referring it to RCASA or the Coalition for Prevention and Support. And I'd agree that's one of the players, but it's going to be a broader effort eventually. I think that's a good place to start.
Bob, would the Rec Committee, Birch Meadow Subcommittee come back to town meeting in the fall and sort of address these items?
I don't know, Karen, where, you know, they certainly, it'd be quite reasonable to ask the moderator for them to give a report to town meeting where they were instructional motions, and I assume he'd be fine with that. And that's usually under it's usually Article 2 reports, so that would seem to be reasonable.
And let's see. So 6 is bylaw committee and the moderator and town clerk, town meeting attendance. And I think that was really, it would be a bylaw change if they acted on it, or they would recommend a bylaw change.
Well, my understanding is right now they're not taking it up because it didn't pass. If the board wants them to take it up, you'd have to tell them that.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, you're right. Yep. Okay, all right. So we don't have to worry about 6 then. And 7, 5 and 7, no, wait, 7, you said they are rules.
1 and 7 are being handled by the moderator, bylaw committee, and rules committee.
All right, comments from board members? Mark?
Thanks, Karen. So I think that on number 5, I love that the coalition would take a strong role here. But I think the request, as you said, Bob, is kind of this broad-based group. I'm just thinking about how to approach this, how to get the conversation started, because I know that it's a priority. We want to get it going. So this actually, I'm just reading through it. So the select board should set initial goals, which for consideration could include, you know, a variety of things. You know, I think what's really important here is to get kind of collective expertise that's out there. I'm sure there are a number of communities that have done this and have done it well. I think that Arlington is one of them, actually. I heard recently the former chief of police of Arlington spoke about this kind of an initiative. So I just think we as a board should talk about how we want to move this ahead, make it a priority, get it going pronto. I don't have a specific on this is how it should be done. Sorry. I think that there was a kind of that pause.
Okay, yeah, someone, and everyone stepped back virtually, right? So Mark, did everyone step back?
So, you know, if the board wants, I'd be happy to start to talk to the coalition, to talk with the chief. I don't know, you know, I don't know what the right approach would be to kind of, you know, getting this umbrella set up. Obviously setting up some meetings to have a discussion, but again, it's most important to bring in expertise. Folks who've done this, folks who've had success, people that can tell us, here's what you watch out for. You know, this is the stuff that you want, but it's not realistic. That's the kind of stuff that I think is really important to get at quickly here. And I know that, the Chief Clark, again, when Ann and I met with him and Deputy Chief Amendola, has got some ideas, I think, as well. Awesome. I think it's just, we want to kind of get this thing moving and kind of get this group basically engaged and kind of buying in on everything and go.
Well, Mark, may I ask you if the board suggested that you would be the great person to get this organized and going, would you envision that you make sure the right people are at a coalition meeting and this is an agenda item?
I would be happy to try to get this started and start talking to people about it and then come back to the board with some thoughts. How's that?
Okay. What do other board members think about this? I'm happy to take Mark up on his offer. I think that would be wonderful. And I think I agree with your suggestion for getting the right people involved. Anybody else? No more comments? Sold. Thank you, Mark. Terrific. All right, Bob, I appreciate you going through this and outlining how best to get moving on some of these instructional motions. There's a lot of them. Okay. Next. So this is where we can finish up on the VASC volunteer appointments that we pulled out of the consent agenda. And they are the Audit Committee, the Reading Climate Committee, HRAC, and Park. So, so why don't we start with audit first? I'm going to recuse myself. And I guess I don't know what I should do. Leave the meeting and you guys, someone can text me and you can make a recommendation on audit and I'll come back. Could I ask the vice chair to do that?
Certainly.
Okay, so I guess I'm gonna leave the meeting, then come back when you text me. All right, thank you.
Sounds good.
All right, bye.
Do I hear him? Yes. Is that Bob?
Yeah, Ann, is it helpful if I share the screen that I have up now for the board as we go
Sure.
one committee? Okay.
Sure. Do I hear a motion to approve the recommendations of VASC with respect to the audit committee as presented on the screen?
Second.
I think I first need to hear a motion.
Oh, sure.
Or I think if you want to say so moved, and then if someone would second, that would be great.
So moved to appoint Stephen Herrick to the audit committee. Reappoint, reappoint.
Excellent. Do I hear a second?
I'll second. Spark.
Okay. Let's see. All in favor, Mark,
Yes.
Carlo,
Yes.
Chris.
Yeah.
Anne, yes. Okay, I will text Karen.
Okay, I'm back. Are you guys done?
We are.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kaylin. Okay, super. Okay, so Reading Climate Advisory Committee. Oh, sorry, Mark. There you go. You're recognized.
Thank you. When we talked about the Climate Advisory Committee, we had one candidate. We have 3 currently vacant slots, a full and 2 associates. And Carlo, I'll let you speak for yourself also. I elected at the time of the VASC meeting not to vote because I wanted to understand more about some of the concerns that came up as part of the interview. And let me explain to the board a little bit about kind of what the discussion was. I think that the discussion focused on some uses of social media, specifically not using the same name. And as interestingly, though I don't use social media, I use it a lot in different ways. I teach a lot about it, and it's used to help in working with communities and selling products, but I don't participate in it purposefully. Now, that said, I know of many people that use different screen names, and I don't have a particular opinion on that. It's okay, not okay. I don't think it relates to how someone can serve the town well. I think that if there were a scenario where people were doing terrible things, being unproductive, commenting about individuals and doing things that made it seem this person couldn't be productive in a committee environment, I think I would see that differently. What I did in response to the scenario here is I did some homework. I talked to some people, actually some people approached me as well, and I actually spoke with the candidate, Gennady, also, and felt that he wants to be a volunteer in the town. I think this would be a way to channel things in a productive fashion. He actually does work a lot in committee kinds of structures for work and other areas. And at the time I had no recommendation, but at this time I actually recommend in favor of appointing him to one of the open slots on Climate Advisory.
Interesting. Yeah.
Carlo, you're unmuted. Would you like to speak? Okay, thank you, Mark.
Sure, thank you. So I completely disagree with Mark, unfortunately. This particular individual does have a different username, which I know is common. A lot of it is sometimes for security or public safety officials, families, they use a different name on social media. But when you're inserting yourself into town politics on social media and don't want to identify yourself, I just, that doesn't sit well with me. So he did answer the question when confronted at the meeting, admitted it, and it just questions his character for me. It doesn't seem like this is for security purposes that he has a different profile name, but he's constantly probably on the rant and RPN and just, commenting as you don't know who it is. So we're a community here. A lot of us know each other. It's easy to be on social media, but at least when you're talking to someone or commenting to someone, they're an actual resident. So that's where I stand. I would not seek to appoint this applicant.
Okay. Questions from other board members? Chris? Oh, sorry, Ann. Ann, you don't have it. Oh, you do have a hand, but Chris, go first and thank you.
Thanks, Karen. Yeah, I fall under the scenario of knowing all about this particular person for months, just because I did for the most part. And I think it ends up coming down to where you could easily violate like open meeting law or something else by interacting with somebody that you didn't even know was on the board or committee that you happen to be with. Like, for example, if I had a different screen name and I was interacting with you and Mark on something, and you had no clue that it was me, like all of a sudden now we're involved in this quasi quorum thing. So I think I definitely anonymity online is, some people do need it, and I completely agree with that. But once you stick your head out and you want to volunteer and be part of town government and all that, I just don't see how that, that kind of goes out the window at that point for me. So that's where I'm at.
All right. Oh, hang on for just 1 second. I lost Zoom. God. Okay, actually, I can't see you, Anne, but I'm pretty sure you raised your hand if you want to go.
I did. Thanks, Karen. So the anonymity piece is not a particular concern of mine, particularly given this person is a private individual, is applying to be a town volunteer. But I can certainly understand why someone would use a different name for social media purposes for privacy, particularly as a private individual. But I was actually just hoping to hear a little bit about this individual's, is there anything in this individual's qualifications or concern about the legitimacy of their interest in serving on the Climate Advisory Committee? It seems like I did take a look at this individual's resume. It seemed very impressive, but I certainly welcome hearing from Mark and or Carlo about their interest in serving on the Climate Advisory Committee, any relevant experience and what they were hoping to work on in this capacity.
Oh, Mark.
Thanks, Karen. So Ann, we spoke a little bit with him at the interview, and also I had a chance to speak with him separately just to learn a little bit more what his interests are. And to answer your question, he seemed very legitimately interested in the issue and in channeling some positive energy toward the impact of climate change.
Okay.
And I felt pretty good about that discussion.
Great. And I think, with respect to open meeting law, we all have to be very cautious with any social media inquiries. And, when should this person come on board, like every town volunteer, they will be provided with guidance relative to the open meeting law and have to undergo ethics training. So that's something that, every new volunteer will be responsible for. And there'd be no exception in this case.
Okay. Very good. Thank you for that helpful background, Mark. Appreciate that. I have a question. I would just question whether we should be looking at what people are doing in their personal lives. We need to be consistent. When I was on the VASC, Carlo, you and I last year asked every single applicant the same kind of questions. I do have a concern that we need to be very careful that we are not asking questions that could leave the town open to liability by infringing potentially on somebody's freedom of speech. So I see that this candidate is very well qualified. A scientist is exactly the type of expertise we want on this committee. The committee has 3 vacancies, and so I see no reason why we would not vote to appoint this person. And Ann is correct. They will be given the appropriate information to make sure that they understand the rules, whether it's open meeting law or conflict of interest. Carlo?
Thank you. I just want to make it noted that if, depending how this vote goes, that we're saying it's okay to apply to a volunteer board or committee with a different profile, inserting yourself into town politics. So if a finance committee member was an applicant, I want that to be treated the same in any other board or committee. Obviously, if someone's running for elected official, we're going to know that person. They live in town. They're going to do meet and greets. They're going to do interviews. But when you're applying for a volunteer board and committee, you submit an application. It has your address, length of residency, and all that. So, and yes, he has a great resume, but we're just going to throw it all out the window. So I want to make sure that's in the minutes, that this board, depending how this vote goes, is okay with the board members that vote to approve this person, that we're okay with fake profile names that are commenting on Reading town politics. I just want to make that clear. Thank you.
Ann, did you have a comment? Because your hand is still up. It might have been.
Oh, my comment, my hand is still up. I did actually previously, I'm just trying to, I don't know that that is the message that Carla just said that I would want captured in the minutes, because I think it's a matter of whether someone is automatically disqualified because they use a fake profile name, and that is not an automatic disqualifier for me. If there was additional information about particularly egregious hateful speech or something along those lines, but I think my it's not really like a pseudonym, but like I have like an Instagram account that doesn't spell out my entire name. I think most people could probably figure out who I was, but it's not, I don't delve into town politics on it. It's personal, but I just don't know how that in and of itself is a disqualifier.
Chris?
Thanks, Karen. Yeah, to Anne's point, I'm not sure if she actually knows who it is, and I'm not about to out somebody in a public meeting like that, but it is nowhere close to, just spelling out your name in a different way, or like I was like, my Call of Duty name or something like that I use online or something like that. So I just think that this just sends the opposite message of just transparency. Like it's just crystal clear, not transparent. I don't see how this should be accepted on a board or committee, but it's not just me.
Okay.
Thanks.
Carla, one more comment, and then we'll take a pulse of the board.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So, Anne, you kind of answered your own question. I do not disparage anybody from using a different profile name for whatever reason. That's not my issue here. My issue is when you insert yourself into town politics and no one knows who you're talking to, that's where I have an issue. So that's what I want the board to consider when they make this vote. And we're going to set a precedent for future applicants. That's all I'm saying. I know I have people I know personally that have different profile names for whatever reason. Everyone has their own reason. But if they want to insert themselves into town politics, then to me, that's a different scenario. Thank you.
Mark?
Thanks, Karen. I brought this up at the VAST meeting, but I want to bring it up again here. One of the things when I was doing FinCom appointments and with other appointments in the past, there are a number of people that have very public profiles and are very vocal in their feelings. And one of the things that I made sure to ask of them is, could they separate their kind of public life and working with the committee from their opinions, which they're most, their First Amendment rights, they're able to share them. That's fine. And they keep them separate. And I guess the only difference here is the username that's there, but they still understand that they're part of a committee subject to the kind of the public scrutiny that way. And to your point, Carlo, their information is available that way as an appointed official. And I don't want to get onto this, slippery slope and encourage people to have different profile names. That's not the point. And what's hard, even harder here, is that the reality is it'd be great if we could have these discussions calmly and publicly and really have discussions. And not everyone is willing to do that or able to do that. And that's kind of too bad. But as it is right now, I can't see how that disqualifies someone from wanting to volunteer and be helpful to the town. Okay. And I think if we kind of take a look at everybody and what they start saying on social media, first of all, we're invading people's privacy. And second of all, we're getting way beyond whether or not they can be helpful and do good things. If people are really bad actors, maybe we have to talk about that. But I think here, again, my response to this scenario was to try and do some homework, including talking to the individual, as well as some other people. And I didn't find people outlining, disparaging, terrible comments, off the wall, crazy things that would not be conducive to working together in a group. I found just the opposite. Thanks.
Very good. Okay, so we've been going around this issue for a number of minutes. So are we ready to take a vote on this recommendation?
Could I just ask Mark one question?
Sure.
Mark, you said you'd asked finance committee members if they're willing to put their, put on a different hat when they assume their role on the finance committee. Did you ask the same type of question to this candidate?
I didn't ask him that exact question. No, I did not. What I talked about was, actually, I more listened to tell you the
Okay.
truth when I spoke with the candidate. We
Okay.
had interviewed him, and I was impressed by his background and his willingness to give. And then this issue kind of came up and kind of stopped our discussion at that point.
Okay, board members. So we are starting to hear some of the same information again. So I think, and we have taken up a number of amendments. So I think it's time to move ahead with the vote on. So is there a motion for appointing the incumbent and this new applicant to the Climate Advisory Committee of some sort? Mark, do you have one?
I am looking. Yes, I have a long list. I'm trying to, I guess I can. Okay, here it is. So first, move to appoint incumbent Ray Porter to a full membership on the Climate Advisory Committee with a term expiring June 30, 2024.
Second. Okay, so board members, as I see you, Chris
Yes.
and Mark,
Yes.
Carlo,
Yes.
Anne,
Yes.
and Karen, yes. Yes, Mark?
So I have a question. So we didn't have a discussion about whether or not this person would move to a full or an associate if they were to be approved by the board.
So boards can't function without a quorum, and I would recommend that we make a motion to appoint this new applicant to a full member so that they have every opportunity to have a quorum.
All right, I will.
So both there's, so is that really, those are our options. I see there is an associate member right now. Is that right? But
Correct.
That person didn't apply to be made a full member, so we wouldn't elevate them.
Correct. They have not indicated at this time that they would like to move up.
Thank you, Caitlin. Appreciate it.
Okay, Mark, do you have a motion? Or,
Okay, so move to appoint Gennady Pilyavsky to a full membership on the Climate Advisory Committee with a term expiring, sorry, I have to move this across,
222?
June 2024,
Oh, okay.
June 30, 2024.
Second. Okay, board members, as I see you, Mark,
Yes.
Carlo,
No.
Chris,
No.
Anne,
Yes.
Karen, yes. Okay, moving on to HRAC. I have been, for HRAC, I have been reconfirmed by text, and the applicant, actually, so, okay, I don't need to recuse myself from this because we're not going to reappoint that applicant with the same last name as May. Okay, but yes, so I don't know where the disconnect went. But you don't need to reappoint that applicant. You only need to reappoint the other incumbent. Oh, sorry, and your new applicants.
So can I make some motions? I'm scrolling through as fast as I can to find the similars and what I want to do here, but give me just 1 second. Okay, I'm just going to do it. So move to appoint incumbent Ashley Gross to a full membership on the Human Relations Advisory Committee with a term expiring June 30, 2024.
Super. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Board members, as I see you, Mark? Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Any discussion? Oh, sorry. Any discussion? None appearing. Okay, Mark,
Yes.
Carlo,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Anne,
Yes.
Karen, yes.
Okay. Move to appoint Charla Lestrade to a full membership on the Human Relations Advisory Committee with a term expiring June 30, 2024.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Board members, as I see you, Mark,
Yes.
oh, sorry, any discussion? None? Mark,
Yes.
Carlo,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Anne,
Yes.
Karen, yes.
Okay. Move to appoint Carolyn Johnson to an associate membership on the Human Relations Advisory Committee with a term ending June 30, 2022.
Second. Any discussion? None appearing.
I do have one question, and I don't know if we could do this perhaps at the same time.
Yes.
At one point in time, we had reduced the size of HRAC to 5 so that they could have a quorum to function of 3. Do we need to expand the size of HRAC simultaneously while we do this in order to be back to the full cohort of 7, or have we done that previously?
Mark?
So as Carlo and I discussed this as part of VASC, we would have 7 candidates here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We'd have a full cohort of 7. I don't know if that answers your question, Ann.
It doesn't. Do we also need to vote to make HRAC a board of 7 structurally? Because at one point in time, we reduced the size to 5, so that way they could function with 3 members as a quorum.
Okay, so there are only 5 full members and 2 associates. Sorry, did that help?
Maybe that's what we did. Maybe that was what we did. That would make sense. Okay.
So
I don't know, Bob, is this ringing a bell for you? We'd worked with Josh at one point in time, maybe a year and a half ago, to reduce the size so that they could make a quorum.
Yeah, Ann, couple of points. Firstly, you can have 3 associate members. There's no reason you can't with a committee of 5. And then secondly, if you do want to move it back from 5 to 7, I just would suggest you not do it tonight because you didn't really say that on the agenda.
Right. Okay. All right. Then I think we're good to the extent it's that 2 are associates. Okay.
Point of order. So I'm a little confused. Are we going to, will we be able to find homes for all of these applicants? And if so, should we just make one motion and get the rest appointed as associates, or are we not able to appoint everybody? I'm a little confused.
Yeah, you don't have enough spaces for all the names on that.
That's what I thought. Okay.
I think you have room for 2.
Okay. In the interest of time, I'd love to make a motion to appoint the 2, if it's possible, Mark, if we could appoint the 2 associates in one motion.
Did I just make a motion, Carol?
I'm sorry, I made a mistake. I forgot that Madeline Herrick is not interested. So you actually have 3 associate positions possible tonight. There's only 2 listed, but you can have a 3rd if you want to.
Okay, so we did Sharilla, we voted. Carolyn, did we vote on Carolyn, or is that what we're doing?
So you have 4 remaining names and 3 are possible to be associate members if the board wishes.
So I think that we had just brought Carolyn's name forward, but I'm not sure. I gotta rewind a little bit.
Yeah, if you prefer to just, if there, I think we're down to the associate positions. If the VASC wants to make one motion to appoint 3 associates and that works for everyone, that would make it be fine with me. Mark?
So as VASC, we voted based on the list that you're seeing here. And we also stated that if it turned out that Madeline was not in fact, or had resigned or wasn't in fact continuing, that we had one other person that we had talked about and voted in favor of. So that's what VASC did.
I just want to also point out that associate members have terms of either 1 or 2 years. They're supposed to be staggered.
Mhm.
So if there's 3 associates, you could do 1 year and 2 years, for instance.
Carlo?
Thanks. I get where you're going with this, Karen. So you want to try to appoint as many people as possible, but I'm okay with that if the board's okay with that. Mark and I did have a discussion. If by tonight, if we got notice of another vacancy, and we let some of the candidates know that they might not get chosen due to availability. So I would, Mark and I did have a discussion on our last night. And so if, depending what the board wants to do, we can appoint everyone to an associate position, or we can make a motion just to appoint to fill Madeline's seat tonight. It's whatever the board wants to do.
Mark?
So just to clarify, we can't appoint everyone, no matter what. But what we, conceivably we can do, go through what we did as a recommendation in VASC. And then Bob is indicating there's another slot open. My gut on this would be to stay with the 7 that we had planned on. And if there is an appetite for more, we can have another VASC meeting, that's fine.
I would be happy to put it on as another agenda item if you want to expand it and take all of these volunteers at some point later this summer or the next couple of meetings. Okay, so we have 2 associate members that need to be appointed, right? Is that where we are?
Right. And so to Bob's point, so Carolyn Johnson, we had on here for a term expiring 2022.
Okay.
And then the other candidate that Carlo and I had talked about was Carolyn Whiting as
Okay.
an associate member.
Okay.
But we didn't talk about 2022 versus 2023.
Okay. Carlo, we just need a motion, guys. We just,
Oh yeah, no, I just want to ask Mark a question. Is that okay?
yes.
Sorry. Mark, I definitely remember the conversation that we talked about this scenario. Could I make a motion to appoint Stephen Leahy as well? Because we didn't take a formal vote, you and I, given he's a retired teacher.
You're saying instead of Carolyn, who we had talked about, or
Yes.
in addition?
Well, for tonight's sake, instead of, and then for later, whatever the board decides.
So I think we need to kind of just have one plan for tonight. We need to either do 7 or 8 in total, and then decide who those 7, who they're going to be. We're down to
2 associates.
Right.
right. We got to decide who those folks are going to be.
So I'd like to make a motion to appoint Stephen Leahy as an associate member.
Okay, just to be clear, and maybe we should just say the motion again. I don't recall at this point if we already made a motion to appoint Carolyn Johnson. So let's be really clear about who we're appointing and the terms, if we could,
Okay.
and then we can second it. How's that? Just to make sure.
That sounds good.
So can I suggest that we do one person at a time?
Yeah, okay. Would you like to make a motion, or how about that? Make a motion for Carolyn Johnson and her term, and I will second it.
So motion to appoint Carolyn Johnson to an associate membership on the Human Relations Advisory Committee with a term ending June 30th, 2023, I'm going to suggest.
Okay, second. Any discussion? Okay, none appearing. Board members, as I see you, Mark,
Yes.
Carlo,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Anne,
Yes.
and Karen, yes. Great.
Okay, so now we had talked about Carolyn Whiting. We as VASC had talked about Carolyn Whiting in the scenario where Madeline was not going to be there.
Mhm.
So I'll make a motion to appoint Carolyn Whiting to an associate membership on the Human Relations Advisory Committee with a term ending June 30th, 2022.
Second. Any discussion? Okay, none appearing as I see you. Anne,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Carlo,
No.
Chris,
Oh, no. Sorry.
and yes. Okay, so we filled it for tonight, but we can, I am happy to put an agenda item where we add another or two associate members as allowed and not lose these candidates who are willing to step up. I appreciate that. Okay, moving on to Park.
Karen?
Oh, sorry, Mark. Mark, yep.
Thanks, Karen. So I'm wondering if it would make sense to kind of talk about the philosophy that we used here. Because I know Anne asked a question.
Yes.
And receiving some questions also. Would that be?
Yes, I think that's exactly what I was hoping to understand, sort of what the breakdown is of folks that you would be putting forward in terms of business owners and residents, as well as residents who would be directly impacted by contemplated downtown parking changes.
So Carlo, do you want to start? You want me to start?
I'll start, if you don't mind. Thank you. So Mark and I took the approach of interviewing all the park candidates, and that was over several nights, and not really discussing it till the end, just to be fair, and not pick favorites. But we did have discussions over the several evenings of, we definitely wanted business owners, of course, in the downtown area, and we did have some business owner Reading resident applicants, thankfully. I wish we had a few more, but we had 3, and we appointed them all just from their business owner experience and what they could provide to the park committee. And some have already been involved in making recommendations to downtown parking, going to previous meetings. So they were already involved already. So that was a big bonus. As far as residents go, Mark and I just kind of, heard everybody. Most of them lived in the downtown area. A few did not. And on our final night, we just discussed who would be a good fit, what they could bring to the table, and how long they've lived in town, what they could contribute, make sure they didn't have a hidden agenda. A lot of them were very thoughtful. One of the new members that, if this is approved, is a MBTA transportation engineer who's relatively new to town, and was very excited to be on the committee if chosen. A few of the other applicants that were chosen, and they were all great, by the way. So it was not fun to pick some people over others because they all wanted to be on this committee. So I wanted to make sure I said that. And the other ones were lived in downtown proper as residents, whether it was a multifamily or a single family, and have been in downtown for a long time. So that was kind of my thought process. Mark shared most of it, and we had a good discussion on our last night, and we picked the 7 that we thought would be the, give us a range of people, male and female, and where they lived, and just different backgrounds and different input. And that's how we ended up with the 7, plus someone from our board and someone from CPDC. So it'll be a total of 9.
Karen, can I just add to that for a second? Oh, you're muted, but I think you said yes. Go ahead.
Yes, sorry.
So, so thanks, Carla. I think that summarizes it pretty well. I think one of the criteria that I thought was very important here were people that could engage in a very productive discussion, that they would be able to add and also listen. I think where the board kind of took the actions that were recommended by town staff and kind of said, let's get some more input, particularly from residences, but also from businesses. We tried to create as balanced a board as we could from the candidates. And as Carlos said, they're all great applicants. And this was really, difficult trying to figure out which would make the most sense. We did try to make sure we had people who were residents who lived in the area, but to not over concentrate with multiple people who lived in kind of on the same street, because we had that opportunity. We wanted to make sure we had some folks that didn't live in the area, but do a lot of stuff in the town related to commuting, shopping, different activities. And then we wanted to make sure that the business representatives could have a good positive discussion in terms of, how do we take this forward? And the goal here was, I think there's a 12-month life on the committee, but I don't know that there's necessarily, it doesn't require 12 months necessarily. It may have some recommendations sooner. So that's kind of how we did it. Again, I think that there are great applicants here that didn't make the list that Carlo and I voted for, as well as those that are on the list. So that's how we approached it.
Could I ask, Madam Chair, could I ask a question?
Yes.
So I understand the breakdown. There are 3 residents who are business owners in the downtown area. There would be a select board member. There would be a CPDC member, and then that would leave 4 other residents. And then of those 4, how many live in the downtown area?
Carlo, Ann, can't see your fingers. Sorry, did you have 3 up? Or
Two, sorry, 2.
2, okay. So 2 from the downtown area and then 2 from other areas of town who frequent the downtown for other purposes.
Yeah, two immediate downtown, one
Okay.
not too far from downtown, and
Okay.
then one other valued resident, community member who volunteered for other boards and committees, and one was not chosen, actually wasn't chosen for 2, not because of their ability, but we just thought this was a good fit for that particular person.
Okay, any discussion? So this is the slate that you would recommend right here. Okay, I don't see any discussion. Are we ready for a vote? And a motion, sorry.
I think we need a motion.
So move to appoint Sarah Brucolacchio, Dan Dewar, Jay Jackson, Thomas O'Connor, Karen Rose Gillis, Elizabeth Whitelam, Bernard Horn as members. Sorry, I'm struggling for words. As members of the Parking Advisory and Recommendations Committee. Term to
Second.
expire not later than, sorry, so the term is up to a year, right? Do we need that, Bob, do you think?
Yeah, the term by your policy is December 31st, 2021.
Okay, for term.
So if you can see my screen, that's kind of the motions, the draft motions.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, I was looking at my own screen.
Okay, Carlo, did I hear a second from you?
Yes, second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, are we ready for a vote? Board members, as I see you, Carlo,
Yes.
Anne,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Karen, yes. Okay, thank you. Taking care of that. Okay, next item. Quickly discuss location of future select board meeting. So I don't think we have anybody waiting to present to us. Would anyone be interested in taking a quick break at this point? We're running over a bit, but we've been very hardworking select board and staff. Okay, so it's 9:35. Could we reconvene at 9:40? All right, I'll see you. Thank you. Sorry, we have to see you every meeting, but it's always nice to see you.
Hi, Andrea.
Hi, Anne. How are you?
Doing all right, thanks. My internet has been really spotty tonight, so I'm
Oh, no.
foregoing video for now.
Okay.
Okay, I think I forgot to let RCTV know we were taking a 5-minute break, but looks like we are back, yes? All right, okay. Okay, our 9 o'clock agenda item at 9:41 is to discuss the location of future select board meetings. Okay, so Bob, I was hoping you could just, hopefully you've had time, before you went on vacation, you didn't have all of the handle on every parameter regarding the extended legislative policy for remote meetings, and maybe everybody is here in case we have any concerns about that as well. But do you want to sort of give us a heads up of what we are allowed to do or what we can do?
You do whatever you want.
Okay, that's easy. Excellent.
You know, it seems like you have 3 options, meet fully in person, meet fully remote, or do a hybrid meeting. You know, technically you can do a hybrid meeting by having some board members, you know, present, some board members hybrid. The tricky part of all of this is how to welcome the public to a meeting. You know, clearly a public meeting in person is the easiest way to deal with the public. But you've been dealing with them remotely for a while. And I mentioned before I left that we have hybrid technology available. It's installed in the FinCom room. It can be moved, it can be mobile. We tested it out in one of the bigger library conference rooms. It seems to work okay. It's not the same as meeting in person with people, but we tried it out for a couple staff meetings. You know, picture a lot of people sitting at the table in the FinCom room, and then that becomes one Zoom screen, and then as many other Zoom screens as you want for individuals. And it wasn't the same as being there, but it was really good. The sound quality was excellent. The trouble is that anyone said anything in that meeting room, everybody heard everything. You can't whisper. So this you know, the sound quality just picked up everything. You know, we can have your room ready on the 20th if you want to for a hybrid, and the board had previously discussed other locations, which I'm sure I can, you know, get some bookings for, whether it's in the high school library or in the public library. So pretty much, you know, the world is your oyster. You can do anything you want.
Okay, and there are, just to confirm, there are, so what is the public, what any kind of restrictions or constraints regarding public participation, hybrid, remote, or in person?
Well, the one thing the board really hasn't faced in the last year that I recall is having a heavily attended public hearing. I think that will be a challenge to do remotely. You know, the property near the library drew, I think, 12 public or maybe 15. And I thought that was it was well run, and I thought it was manageable. But I think the board will find it challenging if you have 50 or more people trying to show up remotely. You know, we'd have to look at the agenda to figure out when that might be, but you can't always tell.
And we would, as we did for that public session, we had folks sign up in advance. So we asked them to plan versus it was more difficult for someone to do an ad hoc, just decide on the spur of the moment to come and participate. They just needed to plan.
You did, but we have to, and Ivrea can certainly speak to this, you have to allow the member of the public to join your meeting at any time. So if it's going to be send an email to the board, then Caitlin and I just have to keep an eye on that. Let them know how to join remotely, and you can't really put any limitations or restrictions on that. You can request that people let you know for public speaking. That's different.
I think that's what I should have been clear. That's exactly what I was talking about. If you want to participate and speak, you needed to let us know in advance. Okay.
During public comment, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So we have 3 options, and is everybody on the Zoom vaccinated right now? I don't have to ask this, and you don't have to answer. I'm just trying to take a pulse. I'm vaccinated, and
I think that's a dangerous question.
Okay, then I can retract it. You absolutely
Yep.
answer, but if people feel like sharing, that's fine. So why don't I just open it up to board members then? What are your thoughts on getting back together in the 3 options Bob outlined? Oh, Chris.
Thanks, Karen. I will voluntarily offer I'm fully vaccinated and only wear a mask when my daughter still has to wear it. So I kind of want her to feel included and not left out. But in terms of meeting fully in person and whatnot, I think we definitely should be coming back. I know the senior center is open. And then currently Carlo and I are in the same room together.
Oh,
So it looks amazing over here. And then Bob's room that he mentioned next door that could be used as well is pretty well laid out. Kevin from IT showed me all the options that he have, and it looks pretty in depth. So I think I attended the school committee meeting, and it was just me and Jean and Ace, which is the street fair scenario that they just brought up here. So I'm not gauging that the school committee all of a sudden had like 75 people there. It was just me and them. So obviously ours is a little different, but that was my experience. So I have no issue just meeting here. But thank you.
Mark?
Thanks, Karen. So I guess a couple of things. I think that for the 5 of us to be together, plus Bob, Caitlin, and potentially others, I think has some merit. I think we haven't done it in over a year. I think it would be great. My only concern is I don't want to be in a situation where we're in a smaller room and we do have an item that a lot of people want to participate on. And I know it's going to be, sometimes we'll be able to predict it, other times we won't. So my inclination is to not meet in a smaller room, but rather if we're going to be together, to meet in a larger room that could give everybody plenty of space. And if we have a small crowd, it's fine. If we have a larger crowd, it's fine also. I think it would be great for people to do that. That said, there's been a lot of great stuff that's come from having these meetings online. I think that it's easier for people to participate. I think it's easier for the public actually to participate if they want to, certainly to be tuning in, but also to participate in the meeting. And then I don't know about others, but I also anticipate possibly having some travel that's going to start to come back up, and having the ability to participate in those meetings with a communication system designed to handle that, I think can really make a difference. And, in an emergency, I know that we can call in, and that's just not quite the same as 4 members being there and 1 member not. So I'm flexible in terms of format. I think the one place I'd rather not go, though, is to get into a small room where we could conceivably have a lot of members of the public wanting to join us on a particular topic.
Carlo?
I agree with Mark. I'm okay with meeting in person. A bigger room because we can't anticipate how much of the public is going to come, whether it's the library, the PAC, or to be determined. But as much as we've gained by doing this remotely, as Mark said, we've also lost a lot. Meeting people in person, giving citations, recognizing public safety, recognizing members of our community. I mean, it was really refreshing to do these VASC interviews in person. When Karen and I did it last year, it went great. It was Zoom. It was, pretty into COVID, but that went great. And this went great. So again, very small amount of people, but it was nice to see people's faces, and people came in with a mask on, mask off, didn't know what to do. And we just said, whatever's comfortable for you. So I'm all on board for meeting in person. In a bigger room is fine. The select board room at times could be too small. So I think we really need to meet in person, and I think it would benefit the board greatly. Thank you.
So I would really welcome the opportunity to meet in a hybrid fashion in a big room. So with an opportunity for board members to be in person, for members of the public to be in person, as well as for board members to participate remotely and members of the public to participate remotely. Bob, I know you said the world was our oyster. I don't know if that is feasible. Is it feasible for us to have remote technology set up for the PAC or the library at the high school? Is that something we could make happen?
I would say the PAC is no. If you just think of the logistics of trying to run a hybrid meeting there, I just don't think it would work.
Okay.
That room is also booked during school for other things.
Okay.
But I don't know about the high school library.
Mhm.
That's where the school committee meets. So my guess is they probably can do hybrid, but I have to find out. I'm meeting with the school committee at 8 a.m. tomorrow. I can ask. And yeah, we can get that feature to the library. Again, it's, we have to work with the library staff, but it was tested out there once and it works. So
At the library community room.
yeah. So
Okay.
one thing the board could certainly, you could test out what is it like to meet this way or that way. As I said in my memo, we really do need you to make a decision for July 20th because we do have a public hearing. Other than that, you can mix and match. But I think we could offer either the public library or any room or the 2 rooms at Town Hall for July 20th without a problem and do it hybrid. I wouldn't want to offer that for the high school library at this point.
Understood. Okay, I'm open to hybrid, and I would, let's try the larger room to begin with, particularly with a hearing on the agenda, although it didn't sound like it would be particularly large crowd attending it. So maybe the library we could try for 7:20.
Okay.
Because it would support and supporting hybrid participation.
Yeah, and of course it's up to you, but I would suggest that some number of us try the remote just so that it's a real hybrid meeting. If you all show up, we're not going to be testing it very well. So, I certainly volunteer to stay in my office. I'd rather be in the room with you, but I have to tell you, having, the availability of all my information where I'm sitting is just awesome. I don't have that when I'm sitting with you in a meeting room. But, we should just figure out a way, 1 or 2 of you, be remote and let's test it out. Because if you're all showing up, then we didn't learn anything.
True.
Okay. So may I suggest after the meeting, so is there a requirement that a quorum must be in person? I thought I heard that.
There used to be, there is not anymore, right, Everett?
Okay, so, okay.
At least through April 1st of next year. They extended the provisions of the governor's emergency or executive order past the conclusion of the state of emergency to April 1st of next year.
Right. And so there's actually a couple options. So one option is you can utilize the remote participation process that's outlined in the open meeting law itself. So that would require a quorum to be physically present. Or as Ann just said, you can rely on the executive order, which would permit less than a quorum to be physically present in the meeting location. If you're utilizing the process outlined in the executive order and less than a quorum is physically present, then in that case, you need to allow the public to participate remotely. But if a quorum is physically present, you don't have to.
So if a quorum is physically present, do you still need to do roll call if any member is remote?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So,
Whenever you're utilizing remote participation, no matter what form, you have to go through the roll call.
And another thing that you sort of implied but didn't say, for instance, Verizon might be thrilled to participate remotely. I don't know, but people coming into the meeting as presenters might also benefit.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you're utilizing the executive order, then I think your policy is superseded and you automatically can allow individuals to participate, like myself, remotely. To the extent that a quorum is physically present and you're operating under the open meeting law provisions for remote participation, I query whether your policy would take effect. And as we discussed, I think at the last meeting, that policy precludes the public from participating remotely. So the board may want to take a vote to waive that, provision of your policy.
It's I can tell it's getting late because my head is spinning. I was listening carefully anyway. I think I heard we have more flexibility for remote participation, and we do not need to have a quorum in person live if we vote to work on an executive order through April, whenever the deadline is. Yes?
You don't have to vote for that. You can just operate. My concern is that if a quorum is physically present, and you're operating under the open meeting law provisions of Chapter 30A, then your policy about remote participation would take effect. And in that case, you may want to vote to waive the provision of your policy that precludes the public from participating remotely.
Do we need to do that at every meeting?
No, you can do one. You could do it now tonight, and that would just be in effect until till April 1st, 2022, so that it coincides with the expiration of the executive order.
Any comments from the board on perhaps waiving our policy through the end of the executive order so that we would be set? Okay, I got a thumbs up from Mark.
So moved.
So moved. Okay. And actually, I might have misspoken.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, I might have misspoken earlier. Okay, we have a second. Okay. Board members, is there any more discussion? Carlo?
Just quickly, thank you. I think we're all in agreement to some extent of meeting in person. That'd be a good thing. But I just want to, what kind of example are we setting? I get the hybrid model. I get it. We were all elected. Even Karen's election and my election was just before COVID. And we knew what we were signing up for. Meeting in the select board room, meeting at town hall, going to a liaison meetings. And I just want to, the world is different now, but I just want to set a good example that we can meet in person, we should meet in person. If it's not all 5 of us, for whatever reason, travel, family, personal, that's fine. But I want to set the precedent that we're all want to meet in person and do the best of our ability to meet in person so the public can come and see us in person and raise questions or concerns. So I know there's 5 of us, but I think that's what I heard, that we all want to meet in person, but we have that other option. But I think in person should be better.
Okay, Mark?
Generally, don't have a problem with what Carla was saying. I think there's a benefit to the public to give them the option to participate remotely as well as us. And I think that the vote we're talking about here kind of assures that right through the end of the year based on the executive order, and maybe our own board policies need to catch up a little bit, because I think that given technology, given that people travel, given that sometimes people would like to participate but can't make it to town hall, I think we've learned that there's another way to participate.
And this
like to
vote
see
is
that.
actually sort of goes to Carlos. I think actually supports your thinking, Carlo, in that it would allow for board members to meet with a quorum or more, but for those coming to present to us to participate remotely. So, members of staff might be able to go home and, put their kids to bed before they have to come online to present to us, as one example.
Bob?
I want to share your remote participation policy, and then I want to ask town council a question. So this is your policy. I don't know all the different ins and outs, but Ivrea, wouldn't it be better for the board to just operate under the emergency order until April 1st instead of worrying about what their policy does or doesn't say or does or doesn't allow?
Yeah, that is one option. So you could take a vote that all remote participation be in accordance with the recent legislation extending the executive order for remote participation until April 1st, 2022. And that would, waive the provisions of this policy. And, remember, any remote participation still has to comply with both the executive order and the open meeting law provisions for remote participation. So the board will still have guidance on how to conduct a meeting remotely, even if this policy is superseded.
Okay. That doesn't help because we had a motion on the floor and we were waiving our policy, and then Bob says, let's not waive the policy, and everybody agrees. So, okay.
Well, so you could amend the motion if you would like to operate under the recently passed legislation extending the executive order on remote participation until April 1st, 2022. You can amend the motion to that.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Excellent. Okay. Any more discussion?
I just have a question for Ivrea. That doesn't preclude us, what does that mean for if we meet with at least 3 of us in the room?
So you can still meet with 3 of you in the room. It just gives you, it would just waive all of the provisions of your policy. You would no longer be operating under, under 30A for that. I think the biggest component is that if less than a quorum is physically present in the room, that the public has to be given the opportunity to participate remotely. So in that case, you would have no choice to the matter.
To the extent they have a right, to participate, they have to be able to participate.
Exactly, if it's a
remotely.
public hearing, yeah.
Hearing, yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so I think at least for our next meeting, we have determined we will select a venue that will allow remote participation by either the public or select board members. So we're covered, yes?
We need to vote on the motion.
Yep. Oh, but I just want to understand. Chris?
Thanks, Karen. I just had a clarifying question. So how is the Audit and Finance Committee doing this? Are they not bound by what we're doing? They can do whatever they want?
Topic, and we can take it offline. We're really just, we want to focus on this policy right now and getting this motion voted on.
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, is there any more discussion on the motion as amended? Okay, as I see you board members, or I don't see you. Anne?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
I'm missing, oh, Chris?
Yes.
Carlo?
Yes.
Karen? Yes. Super, thank you. Okay. Okay, approved meeting minutes.
Wait a second.
Yes, Bob?
So did you agree to try to meet at the library in a hybrid model for the 20th?
I believe we did.
Okay. I have to follow up on Chris's question. What are other boards and committees under you? Do they, Ivrea, do they all have to follow what the board just did? Because they would have to follow the remote participation policy. Or do they get to choose, each one of them, how they want to operate?
So in waiving your policy and saying that you're going to operate under the executive order, that would apply to all boards and committees under the select board. It therefore becomes their choice. But again, they're bound by 30A and the legislation. So if they're in a situation where less than a quorum is physically present, they would have to allow the public to participate remotely.
Okay, thank you.
So is there a simple way that, Bob, you could communicate that to the boards and committees?
I'll work on that.
Okay, that it might just be helpful. I did see the FinCom was meeting in person for the most part, if not absolutely. And okay.
Yeah, And they can do what they want. They're not under you.
Okay. So we're, next agenda item, approved meeting minutes. We have one set. I just added one, I emailed one adjustment to Caitlin to just note the roll call at the beginning of the meeting minutes, because we did do that. Did anyone have any other edits that were sent in?
I sent in a couple edits to 2 sets of minutes.
Okay, where's the disconnect? On 2 sets. I thought I only saw one from our last meeting.
Had to 6-1 and 6-9.
Oh, okay, sorry, I missed 6-1. Okay. And Outlook kicked me out again, Bob. Do you think we could like let Outlook like last a little bit longer? Let's see. Okay. Did any other board members have any other meeting? So Caitlin, I'm sorry, then 6-1, could we make sure we did the same thing? Just note that a roll call was done at the beginning of both. Thank you.
And sent in some edits. Do you want me to
You want to
put them up on the screen, or how do you, yeah?
That'd be great.
These are for 6-1. All right. Can you see that? Her edits are in red.
Yes.
Is it just the one on liaison reports? Are there others also?
Just this one on this page, but I gotta keep going.
Okay. Okay, I'm fine with that.
So one of the things, if I could, that I was going to comment on here is that, and actually this may be enough for me too, was that we asked Bagel World to come back to us with some specific thoughts. I thought we were a little bit more directive than just kind of postponing our vote. Given the original police department, they should postpone this until one time they respond.
That, I mean, that sort of says it to me.
I'm okay with that.
Okay, I don't see any other hands up. Great.
I just noted.
Yep.
Meg's affiliation.
Very good.
And that was it for 6-1.
Okay, and yeah, so, and the roll call would be added to the beginning, and that would just note who was there, and I'm pretty sure it was all of us, so. Okay. Could I entertain a motion? Well, should we do both sets of minutes and approve them at the same time?
Sure. Let me put up
Thank you.
6-9. Okay.
Okay, I also gave Caitlin feedback that I love the bullets in this meeting format. It just makes it so easy. Okay, I'm good with that.
I'm good with that.
Okay, thank you. That's meaningful.
Yep, good with that.
And I think that was it. Yep.
Great. Could I have a motion to accept, Mark, here's a little test for you. Can I have a motion to accept the meeting minutes of 6-1 and 6-9, 2021?
As amended.
As amended?
So moved.
And could I have a second?
Oh, yes, Karen, your only edits were the roll call votes. Okay, okay. Second.
Okay, any more discussion? Okay, board members, as I see you, Mark,
Yes.
Anne,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Carlo,
Yes.
Karen, yes. Wonderful. Okay. Future meeting agenda topics. We talked about a hearing for Chapin Ave. Okay.
And this was mentioned in liaison reports, but a badge pinning,
Yep.
and some kind of like unsung heroes and heroines acknowledgement of town staff and volunteers throughout the course of the pandemic.
Okay. Staff and volunteers.
We also talked about setting up more of a kind of a quarterly update. We talked specifically about Dave and Christine coming to join the board.
Okay.
And I think that I would suggest we talked about maybe that's something we should even broaden to other groups. Certainly, I would imagine, I certainly would want to offer Chief Burns and Chief Jackson that opportunity as well.
So another option, I mean, Chief Burns does a marvelous job of sending us updates. You've probably read them.
The weekly updates are great. Yes.
Yep.
I mean, absolutely, the chief is certainly welcome to send us any updates he likes or delegate to his assistant chief as well. Because our meetings are pretty long, Mark.
Yeah, well, I mean, my response to that. It's
longer?
not length, it's quality.
Try to keep the quality high, but after 10:30, the quality goes down, trust me. Chris?
Thanks, Karen. So are we going to have an opportunity to go over the bylaw, FinCom, and permanent building appointments? Do I have to make a motion for that, to go over that, or that's just,
As a future meeting topic?
yes. I guess, yes.
Okay, I could, I could allow my colleagues, previous chairs here to weigh in. So those appointments are made. I'm not sure why we would have another agenda item. They operate differently from the VASC. My understanding is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mark and Ann, they are just made in a different way. They're not subject to approval by the select board. So I don't understand what a future agenda item would be about.
I guess my question is the same way that we went over the VAS and pulled out a couple different appointments here. We don't have that same opportunity for these other three committees ever, or?
No,
But if I make a motion to do it, then we could?
no. They don't operate the same way as the VASC. The VASC committee, feel free to jump in. The VASC committee makes recommendations to the select board, and then the select board approves those recommendations. And there are other recommendations in our onboarding manual and our bylaws as well, in our policies, but not these.
Chris, the reason we pulled these out is because we do have actual jurisdiction over those appointments and have the authority over those appointments. We don't have jurisdiction over the FinCom appointments. So, I mean, we could certainly talk about it, but it's not within the select board's jurisdiction.
Mark?
Just to add a drop more to that, Chris, the charter defines how different people are appointed. And so the VASC is going through those that the select board has responsibility for. The others have a different process that doesn't involve approval by the select board.
Oh, yeah, I know that. I was just wondering, I just had some questions regarding certain things. So I guess I wouldn't be given an opportunity to find out or ask any questions.
You can certainly send me an email with any questions you have. We have 3 members of those committees. It was the chair of the committee and the moderator and myself. So you could certainly ask questions. That's not a problem. It's just, we're just talking about setting future agenda items. All right?
Okay. And then regarding my resolution that I had sent to you at the beginning of the month, I'd like to see that being a agenda topic. Or
Okay.
make a motion for my resolution to be taken up as part of the agenda.
Yes. So you made a recommendation for a proclamation to disavow a public non-governmental website. I don't really think that is the purview of the select board, and that's why I did not put it on the agenda.
Well, that's why I would just like to make a motion to see if other people agree or not. I think it's warranted only because that our information is out there, and in addition, it closely resembles our email addresses. I mean, it's pretty apparent. So.
Your request is noted.
So am I able to make a motion to have that added, or
Well,
it just doesn't happen?
At this point, we're not making motions. At this point, we are asking for future agenda items, and I'm noted that you asked again.
How do we get it resolved? If we don't discuss it?
So I believe our rules are, so the chair sets the agenda. My understanding is 2 select board members want something on the agenda, they can ask for it, and then we can vote. And yeah, so that's fine. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, if 2 members want it on an agenda, then it has to be listed under future agendas by your policy. But
Okay.
the chair is right. The chair has the ultimate authority of if and when to ever actually put that on a real agenda, quote unquote.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. Again, it's after 10. Okay. That's right. So in our agendas that look out to the future, there is a list of future agenda items. Okay, are there any more future agenda items that you've identified at this point? Anyone wants to bring up?
Do we have the communications policy?
Oh, yes. Okay, so I do not believe that we have actually added that to the list of future agenda items that we would review. We did previously agree that.
We've committed to doing that, so it should. Yeah, I'd recommend that it be listed on a future agenda.
So we agreed at a previous meeting that I would come back to the select board in July with select packet content suggestions. But I think what you're asking for is a more comprehensive review of the communications policy, since it's a new year, post-pandemic.
Right.
Yeah, so I think it's 2 different items. I definitely will be coming back on 7/20 with suggestions for the packet. But yeah, I think.
Yeah, I think they're related because
Yep.
currently the policy talks about what goes in the packet.
Yep. All right. Mark?
Thanks, Karen. So a couple of things. One, I'd like to put the remote participation policy onto a future agenda. I don't think it has to be July, but for year end would be great. And then the other question, so I noticed, actually 3 questions. Second question is on town manager goals. We're supposed to do the final update next week.
Next
know.
meeting.
Next meeting, sorry, not next week, next meeting.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're all good and get our stuff in. It's probably a good discussion. Are we gonna vote at that meeting? If so, we should just approve them or give us one more meeting if you think we need that. Just a suggestion. That's item 2. And then item 3, do we have a town manager contract to have on our agenda this year as well?
So.
And timeline.
Yeah, I don't know if that's on it. We can just note that. Also, you know, I assume since it's done annually that the town manager review is already on, it's kind of on a loose agenda. I don't know if it has a specific date yet, but yeah, this year should be the town manager contract review. Okay, yeah, great. Okay, Chris?
Thanks, Karen. I would officially like to make a motion to have the Reading MA resolution added to our agenda, to a future potential agenda.
I don't know what that is.
Just making a motion to have that added to the agenda officially, rather than, because it takes 2 board members to at least do it.
Second,
I don't, so we don't need to make a motion. We are suggesting future agenda items. So I don't understand the agenda item you're asking for.
To add my resolution regarding that website to our agenda, to a potential future agenda item,
Okay.
officially.
Okay, so you made the request, so that's fine, but if Carlo, here, other board members correct me, but procedurally, if Carlo just wants to make the same recommendation, then you have 2 people recommending it. Like, I don't think you need to make that request again.
It sounds like, yeah, it sounds like you can add it on the list of to the list of future agenda topics.
Okay, as long as it's
Carlo
noted.
requesting
Thank
it,
you.
right?
yes.
Thank you. Okay, that's fine.
Thank you.
Okay, did you send that to Bob? I'll look it up. We'll get it over then. Okay, I have a whole page full. Is that good? Are we good for this evening? All right, thank you. Okay, we do not have an outdoor dining application tonight, so we don't need to do that. So next on our agenda, we would be, how do I say this? We will be going into executive session, and we will not be returning to the public session this evening. So should I adjourn the public session or no? Just, we're gonna vote. Mark, thank you.
Let me make a motion regarding this.
Thank
So-
you.
You're welcome. Move to go into executive session, including staff members Bob Lasher and Caitlin Nocella and Council Ivrea Freed, pursuant to executive session purpose 2 and purpose 3, to vote to approve collective bargaining agreements, International Association of Firefighters, AFL-CIO Local 1640, Public Works Asked Me, Council 93, Local 1703, DPW Engineers Asked Me, Council 93, Local 1702, Sublocal 038, and that the select board chair declare that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the body, and pursuant to executive session purpose 1, to discuss an open meeting law complaint filed against the select board by Walter Tuvel, excuse me, and to approve executive session minutes and not reconvene in open session after the executive session.
Second. Thank you. Excellent. We have a great secretary.
Sorry, friendly amendment. Considering that there have been 2 open meeting law complaints, Mark, can you just identify the date that this complaint was filed, which was June 22nd, is my understanding.
Or as amended?
Right, should I reread it?
No, I think it should just be a friendly amendment.
Okay, so friendly
that
amendment,
we
so I
add.
would add, yep, so I'd add to the, on the second to last line. So it'll now say open meeting law complaint filed against the select board by Walter Tuvel, filed June 22, 2021, comma, and to ...
Okay, second. Okay. Terrific. I'm gonna, so RCTV, thank you very much.
You need to take a vote, Karen.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Okay, board members, as I see you. Chris,
No.
Anne,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Carlo,
Yes.
Karen, yes. Thank you.